Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm Nathan, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Gus and Alvaro. Tonight, you'll be staying in room 124, The Lighthouse, the second feature film by Robert Eggers. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we sail to the lighthouse.
Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow! Hark! Hark! Triton! Hark! Bellow! Bid our father, the Sea King, rise from the depths full foul in his fury. Black waves teeming with salt foam, to smother this young mouth with pungent slime. To choke ye, engorging your organs till ye turn blue and bloated with bilge and brine and can scream no more. Only when he, crowned in cockle shells, with slithering tentacled tail and steaming beard, take up his fell befinned arm. His coral-tined trident screeches banshee-like in the tempest and plunges right through your gullet, bursting ye, a bulging bladder no more, but a blasted bloody film now, a nothing for the harpies and the souls of dead sailors to peck and claw and feed upon, only to be lapped up and swallowed by the infinite waters of the dread emperor himself. Forgotten to any man, to any time, forgotten to any god or devil, forgotten even to the sea. For any stuff or part of Winslow, even any scantling of your soul, is Winslow no more, but is now itself the sea.
What's going on, all you old crusty wikis? Thanks for checking back in the Grand Cinema Hotel. As always, if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget that it is bad luck to not smash that like button. And if you're listening on anything else, Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, podcast app, subscribe for notifications so you know when we're dropping a new Robert Eggers movie. But yeah, we're back, and we were back with, I know, one of our collective favorites. I know we kind of talked about it last week, but yeah, we're doing The Lighthouse this week. Absolutely thrilled. How did you guys feel the first time you saw it?
What's up, guys? I remember the first time I watched it, I actually went with Gus to watch it. We were really excited about this movie. He had shown me the trailer for it a couple months before it came out. This was before it was really, talked about this a little bit last week, like really riding on the whole A24 kind of like smaller films. So at the time I remember thinking, like, I just want to watch this because I felt at the time I had never seen something like that. And I really enjoyed, at that point I had started enjoying Robert Pattinson and
Good Time.
Yeah, exactly. We had already watched Good Time, and Dafoe's always been just somebody that I liked since the Green Goblin, and Spider-Man. And I remember we went to go watch this movie. I saw it once with Gus. Just walked out, and I was like, I needed the subs.
Yeah, for real.
But I really loved this movie from the get-go. Just for like that first watch, it was really for me like just how it's set up, cinematography-wise, what it looks like. And watching it again, preparing for this, just reminded me how much I loved that first time watching it.
Yeah, what up, guys? Gus here. The first time I saw the trailer for this, I was probably like in the morning, just getting ready for work or something. I used to watch trailers a lot back then, and yeah, I think it was after probably like Hereditary had come out, and I think I had seen The Witch at that point. So I was starting to get excited about A24 horror movies, which I think this does kind of fall under that category somewhat. It's a lot of different things, and horror is one of them. But yeah, the first time I saw this trailer, it was just like, what the fuck is this? And I mean, I couldn't have explained it back then, but now that I've had a lot of time to sit with the movie, it's like H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe had a baby, and then it's like if the Twilight Zone and like The Shining were one thing.
Yep,
you know what I mean? Like there's so many different things that I see when I watch this movie that remind me of other things I have seen before, but it's so wholly original at the same time.
That's a good point. That's a good way to put it. I think, yeah, because I mean, when I saw this, I saw this in theaters, obviously, with my brother, one of our friends, and I had seen The Witch at that point and Hereditary and everything, and like you guys said, like really getting up on the A24 hype train. And dude, I mean, Willem Dafoe really is one of my favorites. I mean, I feel like how can he not be, as an actor? And Robert Pattinson was just, I was really intrigued because I had seen Good Time at that point, and I was like, all right, like he's really breaking off and doing some fucking weird shit, like, because I didn't even recognize him at first when I saw him in the trailer, and I was like, oh shit, that is Robert Pattinson. I was like, all right, let's go. And yeah, this movie just, it really hit on all cylinders. I think like Gus, what you said was a good way to put it. Is it's like a weird mismatch of all my favorite weird things. Like it's just such a surreal, like, adventure, like, honestly, like the worst kind of adventure, I guess. But yeah, like it just really was such a unique film, and Eggers just, it like the shadows in this movie, like that's really what I can't ever get over. Is just everything about this movie is so much fun. I know we'll get into it, but yeah.
I did want to say that that's a part of me too, that why I really like this movie. And the first time that I watched it, like I always used to grow up reading like Greek mythology and Roman mythology and all of that stuff, and like sirens, and so I was always interested in that stuff. And this was like the first movie that I had seen that almost like put it into like real images of how I saw like mermaids in my head, because obviously we always had like the Little Mermaid, but I had read so many stories that they were scary, but that they were able to lure men in. And that was the first movie that I had seen that I'd come across where they had actually put that up. And maybe because it's in black and white, like you said, the shadows, and just by contrast, a lot of the brightness in this movie, it just, everything seems so intense.
Yeah, interestingly enough, this is Robert Pattinson's second movie with mermaids, the first being Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
So, yeah, this movie, dude, when you're watching it, you're just like, what the fuck am I looking at, right? I've seen this movie now probably somewhere around 12 to 15 times. I would say, I know I've seen it 10 times at least, just by the amount of times it's been logged. But every time I watch this movie, it surprises me like it's the first time I've seen it, because I think it is so just wholly original. And within its like look, there's so many different influences, but it still feels original. So I am gonna, sometimes when I'm talking about it, I think I'm kind of getting them mixed up in my head, but there's so many influences there, but I still do think it's so original. So like the look, it's like, it looks like all these like 30s or 40s movies, right? And then the way that they use the cameras with all these old lenses from that time, it just makes it look so much like something I've never seen before. And I do think it's those two things mixed together.
It is
what really carries that for me. That like feeling of what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I think that just plays back into who, I know we talked about it last week, but who Robert Eggers is as a director, like his focus and like his vision for it, and he really he pulls out all the stops, like he really does, like the ability to like create the dread that he does in the very opening scene, like oh my gosh, and the score in this too, but just his ability, and like you said, like he uses the lenses from the time, you know what I mean? It just feels so authentic, and the dialogue once again is just, he's a masterclass writer, and I love this movie for that.
And I have written down, I guess, for some of my notes, is this movie for me is like in my top 10 for cinematography. And yesterday rewatching it again, it always reminds me, and Gus is actually wearing like right now the Online Ceramic shirt, which is
represent.
One of the like opening shots is that picture of them, it like, and that's what I want to get at. It almost looks like a picture. It's
a portrait.
There's a lot of stills, I like to call moving portraits, in this movie, and that was something that the first time I watched too was like that specific picture that he has right there. Like they stand there for like 4 seconds, like almost looking at you. The fourth wall breaks there for a second, and then it comes back in terms of like you're talking that grit, like taking you into that world, and it just seems like almost from the get go, you're like, I don't want to be there. And just that, like
they don't want to be there. You can tell.
No, yeah.
The blocking in this movie is insane. In terms of like, there's also the scene where in the first scene where the seagull and Pats are kind of having that exchange, and the same thing. Like the seagull is so perfectly in the middle. It just seems like it's a portrait of the seagull laughing, and then it just flips back to Pats. And yeah, the cinematography in this is just one of my all-time favorite movies.
So because Robert Eggers is so detail-oriented, those shots are inspired by actual stills of sailors from the time. Yeah. So that's where the idea for those shots come from. And since you're talking about the cinematography, I think it's finally time we bring him up because I don't think we mentioned him by name in the last episode, but Robert Eggers' collaborator, Jaron Blaschke. This is a top tier cinematographer in my eyes, like one of the best of the best working today. Do you guys know if he's working on The Northman? I should know.
I don't know.
You look that up really quick, Ro. But anyways, the way he made this film look is it is really is just top tier to me because of the use of the lenses, like we said, the blocking. Jaron Blaschke, so he's doing The Northman as well. So I'm glad to see this collaboration is sticking together because these guys just working in tandem is exactly what we like. Right?
Exactly.
But I was watching a behind the scenes that was on the Blu-ray, and Jaron Blaschke was talking about like he invented a filter for this movie. So the look of the movie is 35 millimeter black and white film, right? He did say that it was Kodak 250 daylight, but that after all the pushing and pulling and the way that the camera works itself, that it ended up going all the way down to 80.
Jesus.
Yeah. So then he went to Panavision he went to Schneider and he got a filter built that would take out all red light because the black and white film doesn't read red light. It only does blue, green, and ultraviolet. So that's why the look of this movie is so dark, like their faces and stuff like that. I mean, like you said, the shadow work on this is crazy, and it's because of the film and the filter that they had built. So then Panavision bought the filter, and he rents it from Panavision. And he was saying that he thinks it's like a one-of-one filter because who else is ever going to use this thing, probably? I mean, we should do it.
Get our hands on that, though.
But the detail that goes into it, so it's not just Robert Eggers, like Jaron Blaschke as well is this detail-oriented to go and get a filter made and create a one-of-one thing for this movie. And like in the grand scale of movies, this is such a small movie. So to see that much care put into it, I always think that when an indie movie can do something that a major studio movie has the capability of doing, that it's just a slap in the face to like us, the audience. It's like, dude, if they could do this with such a small budget and you have an unlimited budget, why can't you make something that at least looks this cool?
Yeah, for real.
I mean, the quality will always vary in whatever movie, but you can make your movie look cool as fuck, and apparently for not that much money.
Yeah, no kidding. That's pretty crazy, honestly.
I know, right? That was blowing my mind.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Because and also, I mean, you know about this, Ro, because you like film photography, that the XX film that they used, it's not like there's hundreds and thousands of feet of it left, so they had to be conservative with it as well because, well, for still photography, it's endless. They just keep making it still, but for actual film, there's not a lot of it left, so they got in while the getting was good.
Yeah, because Kodak doesn't make that anymore, and I'm sure for some reason, even like something as nice as the Lighthouse, they kind of how Gus is saying in the grand scape of things, it's not a major studio paying you to remake that film and not going to pay for how much it costs to remake, so they're not really making that anymore as much, which obviously for aesthetic purposes sucks, but it's obviously most people aren't going to use it if it's only been used once.
I have a side tangent. I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but do you know why like film companies just make so much less film than they used to before?
I know, like, I know, for example, that they just don't see the cost benefit like for it anymore. Because I know, like, for example, Fuji is in Japan. They don't see any like reason to want to compete with Kodak in terms of getting their product over here overseas and stuff and trying to sell it for the small people who are buying it. It's just not that big of a market anymore. And digital, honestly, like Fuji has this whole line of digital cameras that renders just like film. And I know that like for some purists, it's not film, but if you really look at them, it renders almost 95% close to it. So at one point, like post edit, you could make it look like film. Whether that's like on a purist thing or not, I know some people just want to shoot film. I love shooting film personally, but I could see as a business why the cost benefit there isn't.
I mean, and with so many films nowadays just being shot digitally, it's not like they can go to the major film studios to spend all this money, right? Because that was their main, not supplier, but their main client before, right?
Exactly.
Would be all these studios.
It's like if Nolan is going to shoot his next movie in film and that film doesn't exist, Warner Brothers can pay Kodak
Right.
to
Well, not Warner Brothers anymore because he left there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
did. He
Sorry.
did. He did.
Or
develop it.
whoever he does it
Universal.
with. Yeah,
Universal.
exactly. Like whoever he does it with, like they might be willing to do it because they're gonna pay that much to we'll make you more of that film. But I also think, I'm not sure about this, a lot of those products were made with stuff like whale oil and stuff that maybe now is really like hard to.
Eco insensitive.
Yeah, I think that's another issue with film.
I mean, dude, if it comes down to having to kill the whales to make films, I think we can live in a digital world.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just don't think, like, for them, it's like, yeah, you think it looks cool, but at the end of the day, be like, this looking cool really, it's harder to make.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm happy we got it for this one.
Yeah, no.
I mean, definitely.
I
This
guess-
film wouldn't be what it is.
One other influence that I do see in this movie that he recently had talked about, like the Northman, is like he really likes Tarkovsky, and I've seen a couple of them. I've seen Mirror, but his favorite is Andrei Rublev, which is all shot in black and white. I've started some of that movie, haven't finished it, but I have seen Mirror, and in Mirror, there's a lot of black and white shots that look just like this, and there's the tone of this movie takes a lot from Tarkovsky too. There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of like abstractness that Tarkovsky storytelling doesn't necessarily throw you any words. There's almost very minimal writing, and it's just very like images of stuff. And I think this takes a lot from that type. I guess you would call it. I've only seen Tarkovsky, but it's Eastern European cinema.
I meant to bring this up last time, so I'm really glad you brought this up because this is bouncing off of what you just said with his Tarkovsky influence. Like with The Witch, I seen in an interview and they were asking him, or no, you know what? I think I read it, but he said so much of his influence for The Witch wasn't horror at all. And I feel like that's very similar for The Lighthouse as well, because I saw that he gave Jaron Blaschke a list of movies to go over of like, this is the general look we're trying to have for the movie. And it wasn't, well, I consider this movie like a horror, a fantasy, a psychological thriller, right? Like somewhere in those lines.
I would say so.
But none of the influences for the look of the movie were horror. It's like Fritz Lang films
That's what I was gonna
and
say.
Tarkovsky movies, and for The Witch, it was like Ingmar Bergman movies. And he said that he thinks that he's made scarier images than any horror director could ever make. Like that his movies are scarier, even though they're not supposed to be horrors, right?
I think The Lighthouse pushes that, and we talked about this like before the pod. I think the Lighthouse pushes the horror aspect more than The Witch does. I think the Lighthouse is scarier to me than The Witch is.
Yeah,
I would say so.
agree.
I mean,
don't wanna be on that
the
island.
Lighthouse is just so unsettling, like,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's almost it's interesting, like kind of like parallel against each other, because you have The Witch where there is the devil and there is all this shit going on, and then in the Lighthouse, I mean, you could interpret it however, but at the end of the day, like I truly just believe it's two people on an island, like, you know what I mean? So, and how you're able to take two people in isolation and you know, obviously everything that happens and turn that into something that's scarier than the devil and witches themselves, like impressive.
Yeah, this is definitely a character study because it's only 2 people.
Yeah.
I mean, you see 2 other people at least. You see the mermaid. Well, and then you see the real Winslow, right? So you see about maybe 5 to 7n people overall.
And then
in
you
this entire
technically see
movie.
the wiki before him, right?
Yeah, the two people.
Yeah. Well, you see a head. Spoiler.
Yeah.
Full spoilers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about this movie. It's
Come
been out
on
long
now.
enough. If you want to see this, it's on Prime Video for free.
Yeah.
So you could stop the podcast and watch this right now and come back, which I highly suggest you do if you haven't seen this movie.
Incredible.
But the character study between, like you said, it's 2 men on an island, right? And Ro is showing us some Letterboxd reviews about how people like to act very smart about this movie, but it's really just 2 bros on an island,
Yeah.
boxing and getting drunk and maybe almost kissing each other every once in a while, which they
Yeah.
should have. Come on.
I know, come on.
Power of the Dog, The Lighthouse. They just tease it. Give
Now
me the
kiss.
man kiss. Give me the man kiss.
There was we'll get to it. Never mind. I was like, there's just the perfect time to bring it up. And,
Just bring it up now so you don't forget.
no, because I was gonna say that technically there is some love there with the mussy. And he turns to him and just starts laughing. And I love that scene.
Oh my god, dude.
That's one of those unsettling things in
Yeah.
this movie, right? You know, this movie kind of reminds me of like some of the sequences and like, I guess there are small montages, right? Like there's where it'll be cutting to a bunch of different things.
Kind
at
of when he's
once,
doing work and stuff.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have seen this before, but it's an episode of The Office, it's like the Halloween party. They're trying to impress Robert California, and Gabe shows that like experimental horror film he made,
exactly.
showing all these disgusting shots.
It's like flies on a dead cow.
Yeah,
Like,
the director wanted there to be nothing comforting, and he realized that maybe even narrative itself is uncomfortable. So if there's no narrative, they could be more uncomfortable. That's kind of how I feel about this movie.
For real.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot going on, but there's also nothing going on
no,
at the same time.
I mean, like, I really truly believe, like you said, like people can be smart about it, and there are a lot of things that this movie did
I have
pull.
some smart things I want to say.
Yeah,
about
that
this
did
movie,
pull
but-
as like influences from it. Like, you know what I mean, like Prometheus and like the painting of the hypnotist painting and stuff like that. But like at the end of the day, like this really is a story about like a descent into madness, I feel like, and just how, you know, how two people that just really don't get along that well, and how manipulation and gaslighting can really drive somebody to the edge, and how people, you know, react under extreme conditions and stuff like that. And I know that he also did base this off of a true story that happened
Yes.
of two wikis that were, you know, out on the East Coast that both named Thomas, and one of them died and the other one fucking lost his shit. And so like he does kind of pull all these different things together and uses it to create this totally unique story, which is really cool. But like I was saying, I truly believe that at the end of the day, like this really is a descent into madness, and that's why all these horror aspects and, you know, it all works. Like it really does work.
This is the highest version of horrible bosses you could make. Because like when you watch this movie too, that's another thing. It's
Bro.
like this is the worst workplace comedy I've ever seen.
Literally, when I was thinking about it, I was like, this is how you feel after you work like a double shift with a boss you hate. You know what I mean? Like,
It's like you're only tolerable when you're drunk.
Yeah, exactly. And this movie is like painfully funny. This is
I think it's hilarious.
movie. And I didn't realize that the first time I was watching it.
No.
Like the very first time I watched it with Ro, I mean I wasn't laughing because I just thought like, okay, this is just trying to be weird and it's gonna get very serious. But the second time I seen it, I was like, this is like hilariously funny. Like one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. And probably still.
it really is.
Like we said before about Benedetta, like the fart jokes just
They
work.
always hit.
It will always fucking work.
Because like the
Me,
first,
caveman, fart funny.
because the first time that I had seen it in theaters, I was like the two farts that Willem Dafoe has when they get into their bunk. I'm like, I wanted to laugh, and I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
And upon viewing, I'm like, no, you are. Like this is
just
funny.
reality.
Like
Yeah, right. That's
like
what I thought the first time.
a slice of life.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like if someone farted at work, I don't know if it's not polite to laugh.
Right.
You know what I mean? You would probably try to keep it to yourself as best you could. But in this, that's kind of what I was thinking the first time. I was like, okay, he's old. Let's just pretend that didn't
Give him a
fucking
break.
happen.
He's got a limp. Like we'll cut him some slack.
exactly.
But
And then the second fart lets you know. You're like, okay,
Oh, no.
fuck this guy.
Then you become Pat's character. You're like, nope,
yeah, fuck no.
I hate this guy.
Do you want to talk about the two characters?
Yeah.
I don't think we could go much farther without talking about them.
Just breaking them
themselves,
down.
The actors and the characters. I don't think we're gonna take this like a scene by scene approach or anything.
Probably not.
We will try to go in some chronological order, but I just have a lot to say about everything. So
Correct.
I do want to talk about the actors and the characters themselves. So like you said, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. I mean, who's the star of this movie? Both of them.
Both of
right?
them,
Both
yeah.
of them.
I mean, these are absolutely stunning acting performances.
Incredible.
I think that Willem Dafoe, I don't want to say this is the best movie I've ever seen him in because I haven't seen every single movie he's in. This is easily Robert Pattinson's best role.
I think so, too.
Yo, I would argue though that Green Goblin is Willem Dafoe's best role.
He's so
For it to
good.
come back, I mean, in the last movie again, and just to give us more of it, and then not even feel like he cheaped us out on anything. That almost just added more to it. It's arguable, you know.
This
but
man played Jesus Christ and the Green Goblin in one lifetime. He's worked with Scorsese and Robert Eggers.
Yeah.
He's done a movie with my boy Gene Hackman, Mississippi Burning.
he has so
And
many
that's the first time I've
movies.
ever seen Willem Dafoe look young in a movie. Have you ever seen him look
I have.
young in a movie?
I've looked him up because I was curious. Like, what does that person?
Well, I'm
look
sure you've
like
seen the
while
long
young?
hair
To me, Jesus,
inside the actor
Jesus
studio,
was
right?
that was the earliest.
So the
that's
earliest
the
photo
youngest
you've
I've
seen
seen
of him.
Yeah.
In Mississippi Burning, he's supposed to be like 24, 25, and he looks like it. It's
Interesting.
It's honestly weird because I think the earliest movie I've seen him in is American Psycho. And because you remember he plays the guy who's investigating Patrick Bateman.
yeah.
And
Good
even
detective.
then he looks old.
He
like
does.
30 plus years
Yeah.
He does.
already. But I just think he's an amazing actor, and I would love to see all of his work one day. And easily Robert Pattinson's best role. I think you guys would agree,
Yeah, I
right?
would agree.
Or is it the Batman?
No, I like the Lighthouse.
I like this better.
As
like
a
Thomas?
character, like
Yeah.
I mean, the Batman was good, but like you just get so much more of like the personality behind the person, I guess. In
It's
this
not
movie.
Edgar Cullen.
Exactly.
You call him Edgar Cullen?
Edward.
It's Edward, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's how you know.
People gonna be
I didn't actually
pissed.
read it.
No, but yeah, Willem Dafoe. I mean, they complement each other super well in this. Like they really do work well together, which is what I thought was interesting when I was doing a little bit of research. Is apparently they really didn't speak like at all when they were filming this, except for when they were doing scenes. And then after it was because I guess they were just so exhausted and tired of doing what they were doing. And I guess afterwards they were like, no, he's pretty cool. And they were like friends after. So I was like, all right, that's interesting.
This seems like the worst and most fun movie to make because the conditions are god awful, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're on this small island in Nova Scotia, which is in Canada. If you don't know, I'm pretending I knew that before this. And all you have is this crew and these sets that they built. I want to shout out Craig Lathorpe. I don't exactly know how to say his name, but he built all of this with his crew, and I think it gives us the perfect setting for these two characters. And like you said, this island itself is just unsettling.
It's
right?
a damned rock.
Craig's on the Northman too.
Okay, dude.
It's
I
gonna
love
be
that
so
he's sticking
good.
together because it just feels like a family environment when a bunch of people who have made movies together keep making them.
Mm-hmm.
So like even Willem Dafoe being in The Northman too,
Exactly.
it's like, dude, this is gonna be so.
No,
I'm
I'm so
excited,
excited.
Anyways, we're talking about the Lighthouse. Northman next week. Finally, fuck yeah.
Fuck yes. For
Since the
real.
podcast has been born,
Oh my God.
it's all been set up for
It's
this.
been years.
It's been in anticipation of that, and we're finally gonna get it next week.
It was the Batman and Northman.
What if we don't like it? Be honest. Is there a world in which you could not like this movie? You think, or do you
no.
automatically have it as a 3 on Letterboxd
I
already,
could-
and you're just waiting to load up the rest?
I could still. I know that this movie could still be my favorite one that he has.
Well, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Every time a director that you like makes a new movie, it should be better than the last one.
No, but I'm saying I think the Lighthouse is still gonna be. I still think that the Lighthouse is gonna be my favorite movie after the Northman.
Yeah, I think so too.
Out of
Maybe.
the three.
I hope that the Northman takes his place because it's just that good. But I don't know. if
I
they're
don't
gonna beat
think
this
so.
movie.
My hopes for the Northman. God, we're getting off track. But
Just
my
keep
hopes
going.
for the Northman though is that it has a 300 level effect on the youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like 300 had
Like
for us. where I'm
everybody's
like,
just hyped
"Oh,
on
this
it.
movie fucking rocks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, and honestly, like that's what it sounds like from everybody that's seen it so far. Everybody's just blasted
This
on
movie's
it.
fucking rad.
Like
Yeah.
what? Like all
Man,
right.
I want to be kicking people like this is Sparta, but whatever the Northman gives me.
Like
you
all,
know what I mean?
all I hear is like extreme, violent, gruesome art house movie. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. I will take that mix.
I heard someone call it a mix between Gladiator and Mandy. And I was like, I've never heard something that made me want to watch a movie so much more.
so tight.
I know, but even if it, again, coming back to the Lighthouse, it's just on a personal level, this story is so unique in terms of what Nate had brought up and you keep bringing up of just how much they went out of their way, and it's just a smaller film, independent. And I just think he has so much control over everything.
Yeah,
in
every
this.
single aspect.
And I
of
know
this
in the
movie.
Northman, some stuff has come out already where it kind of seems like maybe he had to give in, give out. And I think that might be something we might not notice, But the fact that in this movie, that wasn't even there, I think that's why the Northman's going to have to do some really, really crazy stuff for me to think that it's better than this.
And now bouncing backwards to The Witch, I think The Lighthouse is so much better, like significantly better.
Yes.
It's not even close in my opinion.
I think The Witch, I've grown to love it more over the years because I like Robert Eggers so much, and then like it's his first movie, and it just like for me that it's built it up, and I'm like, this is such a good debut. But I could see how somebody else to see that movie and like, this movie's boring.
The Witch was like when a chicken hatches and it's a little tiny baby, and you're like, oh, it's so cute. And then The Lighthouse is like, damn, that's a big ass.
It's a fucking rooster. You got roll him in some cockfighting. That's a big bitch right there. But no, you're right though. Like this fool, like he just hit his stride with this movie. Like The Witch, it's a banger. I love it. I'll always love that movie. But for him just to go, he just took like 10 steps up. Like even all the people that he worked with, like we're talking about, like was it Blansky and
Jaron Blaschke.
Blaschke, yeah, like they just like to do all the things that they did to make this like exactly what they wanted, like. Like I know we know, and I know that they know because I mean we've heard them talk about it. But this is the movie that they wanted to put out, like 100%. Like for them, like to be happy with this movie and just be like, this is what we wanted to do. I love it because like you can tell, dude. Like you really can tell.
I'm gonna tie this back to the actors, which is where we started.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Willem Dafoe said when he got to the island that they were shooting on, and so obviously he had read the script because he wanted to work with Robert Eggers. He had been excited to work with him since The Witch. And the same thing with Robert Pattinson. They were saying that Robert Pattinson turned down another role that Robert Eggers was working on for him, but he said like, no, I want to be in something super weird. And then like the same thing with Willem Dafoe. They were like, I want to do something like really weird.
Give me some fucked up shit.
So when they like they were already excited because they had read the scripts, but then when they got to the island and they had seen just exactly they were getting like themselves into, there was a really bad storm like 2 nights before shooting, and Willem Dafoe had trouble getting back to the fishing cottage that he was staying in. So he was like, the elements and the script and seeing the set, like I knew what type of movie we were making when I got there. So that's when I brought, like, I knew what energy to bring to this movie, because he did a lot of work in preparation for this, because like we said last week, Robert Eggers is, in my personal opinion, and I think it's all of our opinion, probably the most detailed filmmaker we have right now.
Mm-hmm. And to do the period pieces,
yeah,
like
exactly. I mean, it's kind of casual, but I guess Wes Anderson is up there too. You know what I mean? Of the like so much detail.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, Robert Eggers being so historically accurate, like that's just his thing, and I think that really makes it so much more immersive. But Willem Dafoe did all types of research that Robert Eggers gave him, like YouTube videos and articles and books to read. And I even saw the set designer. Okay, you know in the movie there's that Light Keeper's Guide book that they keep going to? They used that book that's real to make the sets and everything of like, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like, because that's what the manual says. So they're using this manual from 1881 to make the sets.
so fucking cool. Like, come on, dude. That's
and
so
Willem
awesome.
Dafoe did work with a dialect coach to get that like
Just make it sound
that
authentic.
voice, that grizzled,
the sailor
salty
speak,
voice,
yeah.
right? And let me pull up my notes really quick because I made sure to get this right.
I did want to ask if you knew just by chance if Dafoe is classically trained.
Yeah, he's a stage actor.
And I just think just to adding to him, because we're talking his characters, like that comes out here, you know, that presence, him being such a good actor all the time, he could tap into so many elements, but at the end of the day, he's also Willem Dafoe tapping into those elements. And
is he William or is he Willem?
Yeah, he wants me to say Willem.
This is a debate.
He changed it. Yeah,
I think he was born William, and now he just wants a Willem, right? Yeah.
Yep.
He upgraded his
I think
name
he's
real
German
quick.
or something. Willem. Anyways, but yeah, sorry to cut you off, but in this movie, it just shows, because we talked about how the lenses and everything make it seem like an old movie. And even the acting does, the script does.
Willem Dafoe makes it feel like it's an old movie.
And I wanted to get to is like Pat's looks old in this movie, but we know it's Pat's. But you could throw Dafoe. You could have put another older actor in there, and you could have told me this movie was from 1930s, and I would have believed you.
Yeah, you're right about that. So what I was gonna say was that he worked with a dialect coach. His name's Howard Samuelson, I think. But that the film and the script was inspired by Moby Dick, the captain from The Simpsons, and the work of the author Sarah Orne Jewett, who interviewed and wrote stories about old sea captains back in like that time period.
That's cool.
And and Robert Pattinson's accent was inspired by fishermen in Maine, like the way they talk. And Willem Dafoe, he worked with the coach to get that voice.
Fucking captain from The Simpsons. That's so funny.
I also thought of what's the captain's name from Jaws?
That's what I was
Is it
going to say.
Quint?
No.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, no
Quint?
captain
Yeah.
from the Jaws.
The belly of the beast.
That's how
It's
Willem
like,
Dafoe should have introduced himself in this movie, was the scratching of the jaws.
so funny.
All right, but
I'll catch you the shark.
Robert Pattinson, if Willem Dafoe is inspired by the captain from The Simpsons, Robert Pattinson's got to be inspired by Quimby, right? He's kind of got that JFK voice going on. And I do think if you've noticed, and I just feel like maybe because I've watched this movie so many times, I feel like his voice changes throughout the movie. Like he's kind of got the heavy, like Maine Boston accent or whatever's going on, and then it changes a little bit. And I think it has to do with the fact that he is two people.
I think so too. Yeah.
Like he's the Ephraim Winslow and Thomas Howard,
Because
right?
by the end of the movie, his voice does kind of switch up.
Yeah, I feel like he's not holding on to the accent as much as he is in the beginning.
I will say that just tapping into a little bit into the story, because you brought that up, that it is interesting, just like in Unforgiven, that he doesn't really want to drink at first. It doesn't seem like something he wants to tap into. He almost kind of looks down on it, like Nightmare Alley. Once you get that beast started, that's when like the secrets come out.
I noticed that similarity as well. It did remind me of Nightmare Alley, kind of, where he has this mysterious past, and when he says that he's been bouncing around from job to job, right, and that he's left his father, it made me think of Nightmare Alley. And like, spoiler alert, of Bradley Cooper's character in Nightmare Alley about killing his father. I kind of thought too, I'm like, damn, did this character maybe kill his father? Like, I could get that vibe from him, because there's of all the different like tones and themes going on in this movie, there's that power struggle between the young and the old, right? Like in the script, they're literally called young and old because of the name changes and stuff like that. And to just keep it mysterious, that, I mean, in this movie, they go weeks, days, however long it is. We don't actually know, but they do go a while without even knowing each other's name.
They literally, I mean, you don't find out Willem Dafoe character's name until the last night that they're supposed to be there. And you never even told him. Like literally, like the end of the 4 weeks when he finally has a drink, he's like, I don't even know your name.
Call me Thomas.
And then that's just everything just sets off from there, man. Oh my God.
I love those scenes where Willem Dafoe's like, he's just trying to start a conversation with Robert Pattinson, and then he just starts going off into a tangent about his old life. He's like, I heard that you could be at work. A mutiny.
13 Christmases at sea. She couldn't take any more.
The sea, that's the only situation for me. He's like, I heard they work a man in the timber yards. He's like, 10 times as hard as a horse.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lazy motherfucker.
I know. Like, yeah, you're making him do all the work here too. Like,
I like
oh
how
my
she
God.
says that the Lighthouse has been the best wife that he's had.
The quietest too.
He's like the quietest.
Quieter than any woman alive or something like that. I do have some notes about them. I'm sure you guys do as well, but I kind of just wanted to get into the actual character dynamics between the two of them. So for Robert Pattinson, he goes by many names in this movie. You can call him Young, or you can call him Ephraim Winslow, or you can call him Thomas Howard. He's a young man who's starting out as a wiki, and he's formerly a lumberjack, which I thought was kind of rad.
It's pretty cool.
It's like the farthest two.
It's such a weird job
you
hop.
could do from each
Yeah.
other. He's like, I was way up in the woods, and now I'm on an island in
real.
the ocean. So that alone makes me think that he's running away from something.
Exactly.
And I've kind of thought, just like Nightmare Alley, like, man, the similarities are so crazy between these two. I'm like, this is kind of the same story, I think, of someone trying to run away from their past, and maybe this is him having to pay for what he did, because we don't know if he killed somebody or not. But I mean,
He did. Yeah,
He
I think
definitely
he did.
did.
He
Right?
totally did. He killed that
him.
fucker.
He killed him by just not even helping him. you
The
know?
fact that, and then you took his name and shit like that. Like, you might as well. Like, you know what I
Thomas
mean?
Howard doesn't have a fresh start. Ephraim Winslow does.
Exactly.
But for some of his character traits, I have him as lying. He's fit to outburst of anger. He's a sex addict. He's kind of hardworking. I mean, he doesn't have a horrible work ethic. He tries. I just think he gets belittled at everything he does. He's very curious. I also think even though he does try to work hard, I think he's somewhat careless, because one of the first things you see him do when he walks into the lighthouse is he smokes the cigarette, and then he throws a match on the floor. And it's like, bro, if that was your house for a couple months, I don't think I'd be throwing shit on the floor.
I think
right?
so either.
And I did have one other note. 1 second.
He's like, the house is gonna get washed anyways.
Yeah.
I think he is
Swab.
enigmatic. Like, he tries to keep himself mysterious, but that he also, and this is Robert Eggers' words, it's like he tries to make himself mysterious, but he makes that fact very open.
Right.
Like, I want you to know
Exactly.
that I'm
He's
trying
like,
to
oh,
be
did you know that I'm edgy?
Yeah.
Like, did you know that I have something
exact-
going on
yeah.
that you're not going to find out about? Like, yeah.
And since you had brought this up, sorry, hold on.
go for it.
Since you had brought this up about the Prometheus thing, I don't think that's really what's going on, but I just think that's an added layer.
Exactly.
To it, is that you can see
Exactly.
the connection. And if you don't know, the story of Prometheus is that he stole fire from the gods, and then he was tied to a rock where an eagle would eat his organs
Every
every day
day.
over and over. They would be put back so that they could
Exactly.
be eaten again. And like we said, full spoilers, this is how Robert Pattinson's story arc ends.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Ro. I just wanted to bring that up before
What were
we
you
forgot
saying?
to.
Dang, what were we saying before? I might have forgotten my thought.
Sorry.
I got caught into what you were saying too, because just the Prometheus thing that
There's so much shit to say about
I,
this.
There really
I
is.
agree with you. There's like an overlaying. It's like a layer after, just because at the end it seems like that's the connection. You know, it's not like the story takes from the story. Of
No.
Prometheus, but there is so many symbolisms like a story in Prometheus, and those are the interest again that I don't think too many people tap into the OG Marvel characters, which are Greek mythology.
The original MCU.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how many times they rebooted Hercules? Heracles. I don't know. I like the reboot better.
But it has always been cool to me, just like Poseidon, which basically he calls for.
Hark,
does
bitch, hark.
Does Poseidon put a curse on Robert Pattinson?
Or Neptune.
Possibly.
Or did
Right.
Robert
It's Neptune.
Ne-
Sorry.
yeah.
Neptune, right?
It was a DCU or is it MCU? I'm getting them mixed
See,
up.
so
Okay.
I think that the Romans are DC,
They are
and
more
the Greeks
DC,
are
like,
MC.
they're
MCU.
definitely
because
more-
there
That's
is
so
some
fucking
there
true.
is some Roman characters in the DCU actually.
Rome goes dark, dude. Rome
exactly.
stays
Rome is
dark, bro.
dark, bro.
I prefer the Rome because they're a lot more gritty.
Hades or Pluto, huh?
Damn.
Anyways, we're getting sidetracked here. But Neptune, like you're talking about Neptune. Sorry.
Well, yeah. So it is Neptune, right? We had said Poseidon.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Willem Dafoe's character now.
Sounds
So
good.
he's Thomas Wake.
Wait, really fast forward. I did have one more thing I want to say about
Go
Robert
ahead,
Pattinson.
go
Okay, Robert Pattinson's character, like what I really feel like about him is it parallels like when he murders the seagull. Like, you know what I mean? That fucking scene is crazy too.
Yeah.
That scene's crazy. But like, because Willem Dafoe tells him like it's bad luck to kill a seabird. Well, he kills a seabird that's been pestering him, and he almost like he dooms himself at that point.
Yes.
Like he almost puts that curse upon himself. Like you see that through the seabird, but then like what we were talking about how he is so open with the fact that he has a secret. Like if you're gonna put that out there, like you're almost dooming yourself by doing that. So I think in like just different parallels in the movie, you can see that he's almost destined to fuck himself over in a way. You know what I mean? So I just think that's interesting.
He's always trying to spill his beans.
That's-
He is,
that's what
and
it
why'd
reminded
you
me
do
of.
it?
That's what it reminded me of. That's the thought that I had before Gus had said what he had to say, and he just said it right now, which is why we keep getting the line, "Why'd you spill your beans?" Like he even tells him, like, "You don't have to tell me."
He's like, "Why'd you tell me? I don't want to fucking know, bro." Like,
So you know when we'll get to Willem Dafoe right now, but that first dinner scene that they're having together, it's the second one, and it's where he finally starts to open up a tiny bit because Willem Dafoe's ranting and he's talking about a mutiny at work. It's like you know what's the worst thing about a sailor? It's like the doldrums.
Yeah,
the
the
doldrums.
oh my
It's like
god,
drink is the only thing that keeps a man agreeable.
Yeah.
And then he starts smiling. He's like,
drink is only medicine.
And that's where we first get Robert Pattinson starting to give things out about himself. So that's where we find out he's running away from something, and Willem Dafoe clocks it right away, and he's like, "Drifter, eh?"
He's like, "No."
Yeah, and he denies it. But when he finally tells him, like, I want to, get a good job and save my money, and I'm going to have my own land, and no one can tell me what to do, he spills his beans right there. Willem Dafoe's like, same old boring story, huh? He's like, you don't think I've heard that one a million times?
Like you and everybody else that's out here, buddy.
And I do think that's where it's like he's trying to be mysterious, and then he's actually not at all.
Willem Dafoe just doesn't give a fuck. Like he really does.
I like that
He's
Edgar's.
like, bro, we're here to lie to each other. I'm gonna tell you whatever I want.
exactly.
I like that Edgar's admitted that point that you said, because that is something that I saw in the character. It's that he wants you to know he's mysterious. It's a more important point than him being mysterious, because he could easily just have shut the fuck up and there's no movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
easily.
but Willem Dafoe is actually the mysterious one.
Yeah.
He really
Because
is.
it's like, okay, who the fuck is this guy? His name is Thomas Wake. He's old. He's grizzled. He's salty. He's leathery. Right?
He's got an attitude
Not
too,
a captain.
man.
He's got an attitude. He's not a captain. He's not a president. And he's not my father. You damn sure ain't the president. And he smells like jism.
He's got a nice tattoo though.
He's a short shit liar.
He smells like jism.
And his goddamn fox.
So many good quotes.
There's so much going on
I
about-
know.
with this guy. And if I had to pick one, I do think Willem Dafoe gives the better performance. I think there's a lot more to bite with his character.
He
to pick
does.
one.
And I feel like he almost has more opportunity to do so. Like, I feel like he does speak more than Robert Pattinson, and he is given those few monologues where it's just like, oh my God, I could listen to this all fucking day. You know what I mean?
I think the other reason why we're probably going to bring it up later, might as well bring it up now, is just the gaslighting from William Dafoe in this movie is like, that's also what makes his character just, oh my God, so unbearable at points to me. Like, this guy really sucks, but just a great character.
And he's so well written in the way that he does gaslight Pat's character, because, like, I mean, obviously Robert Pattinson just ends up losing it by the end of it. He's like, what the fuck is going on? And at the same time, especially the first time I watched it, I'm like, what is really happening? Like, who is really doing this? You know what I mean? Because he's just, foot to the pedal to the metal, dude.
Every time I watch this movie, I'm wondering, I'm like, so is Willem Dafoe fucking with him? Is there something supernatural going on? Or is Robert Pattinson, because he is our point of view character in this movie, we're watching this movie as Robert Pattinson.
Is it biased?
Exactly.
Yeah, so is it biased and I can't trust what he's saying? And I don't know. I have a different opinion every time. Because, like, one of the things about Willem Dafoe's character being so mysterious is, like, is he a god? Or, like, does he have
right,
some kind of
exactly.
supernatural powers, like, from the light? Because his relationship with the light is sexual, romantic, obsessive, and it's somewhat like a religious experience.
Yeah.
And I was, like, speaking to the symbolism earlier in the movie, or that you were talking about earlier, is that, so I was looking at this stuff online about, in religion, there's this idea of, like, sinners and people who don't have the wisdom, like, not being able to see God's light. And, like, if you see God's light, it'll blind you, which is what happens in this movie. But that there's always, like, an older, wise man who's, like the keeper of the light and can show you, like, and he has the power to look into it and harness it because he's old and he has that wisdom and he's, I mean, I don't really know where I'm going with all this religious stuff, but I did see that, and I thought that was some very interesting symbolism. Because, like, the door has he has the key to the lock, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when Robert Pattinson gets the key later, it doesn't seem like the key actually does anything. The lock opens on its own. So it's him ascending to, like, see God or whatever, right? And because he's a mere mortal,
Exactly.
it fucks his shit up and sends him into another dimension.
And I mean, I think that's exactly what you're probably supposed to be getting from this film, because I feel like that's what Winslow or, Thomas's character really ends up feeling by the end of this. Like, he is convinced that there is something going on with the light, and he wants to go figure out, like, what is it? You know what I mean? And
It's that curiosity.
It is.
Yes.
It is that curiosity, and it's just that distrust of Willem Dafoe's character, because he has lied to him all this time, and he's like, I need to get to the bottom of this, which is just so crazy to think about. Like, get to the bottom of what? Like, you know what I mean? But
so Willem Dafoe's character doesn't seem so horrible. He's a bad boss, right? And he takes advantage of him, and he's a liar, and he's conniving. But you still are with him because it's Willem Dafoe, and he's so likable at the same time. It's like a boss you hate, but it's like, damn, he's kind of funny.
he does have moments of humanity too.
But then
like,
the light is when it switches.
It does.
Anything that has to do with the light is when he becomes what you're scared of. You know what I mean? And that's where for me the shift is between him seeming just like an asshole that you would have to deal with versus, okay, what is going on here? Is this guy real?
No, it's true, because both these characters do flip-flop, like, from time to time, like, on their personalities and the way that they interact with each other, because throughout the day-to-day work, like, Willem Dafoe's character is a total asshole, and, like, he makes him redo. He keeps things from Robert Pattinson's characters to make his time harder on the island, it seems like. Like, when he carries, like, the whole thing of kerosene up, he's like, oh, you could have just used this. It's like, well, why are you going to tell me as soon as I get to the very top? Or, like, when he basically lets him fall from the light. You know what I mean? Like, when
And
he's
then he
painting the
doesn't pick him
lighthouse,
up.
and he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But then every night when they're having dinner, he's his best friend. And he's like, this is just how it has to, like, this is how it needs to be so that we can, like, keep going, like, keep on, survive out here,
My
basically.
way or the highway.
Yeah, and it's
Robert
just-
Pattinson gives into that a few times. Ro had brought that up.
He does.
Before the pod, that, like, the steak scene where
Mm-hmm.
we get the big speech. And I know at least one other time, Robert Pattinson just throws his hands up. He's like, have it your way. Like,
Yeah.
whatever, fine. Oh, it's when they're arguing about the light.
He curses him. I was telling him, he curses him, and then he goes, all right, have it your way, old man. I do like your steak.
Yeah.
Like,
The
I like your
lobster.
cooking.
The
I like
lobster.
your cooking.
Yeah.
I do like your cooking.
Not fond of
I
me
did want to
lobster.
say the interesting part or the depth to Willem Dafoe's character, which I did notice this viewing, is that we do get the line of him. he did have a family. He did have kids. He left those kids and that wife for this lighthouse. Which I think raises the questions like, is he a god? Is he worthy of seeing the light? And it obviously seems to me that there does have to be something going on with Willem Dafoe there. It does seem like he's like, I don't know. I was going to say it like that. He's almost worth it because he's like gave up everything. Like
He's worthy of it almost.
He gave up everything to be worth of being
like a
able to
religious
see
fanatic.
it. Like kind of
like joining a cult.
Exactly. And then the fact that Pat's just wanted to restart like a whole life and kind of just, and he takes it is the thing. It's not like he earns it. He ends up taking it from Willem Dafoe. It's almost like the light is not like, you can't do that. That's not how the rules, which we see all the fucking time, the book, the rules, like that's not how the rules go.
It's like the rule of the Sith, the rule of two.
Yeah, exactly.
I got stuck there kind of getting to that point, but that's what I was trying to get at.
No, that is a good point.
It is.
Oh, man. Willem Dafoe, okay, so we talked about Robert Pattinson's character being like a stand-in for Prometheus, which it's really not. It's like we said, it's just a layer. Mm-hmm. It's not like this movie is like, yo, it's Prometheus versus Proteus.
I made this movie for this. Setting. Yeah, no. It's just one of those other things.
The connections to the Greek god Proteus and Willem Dafoe's character are so obvious that it has to be that.
Yeah.
It's like, so one of Proteus's nicknames was the Old Man of the Sea, and that's literally what Willem Dafoe is. And I have this picture. Maybe I'll post it when the episode's out. It's of Proteus, and it looks just like when Willem Dafoe is turned into the beast at the end when he's fighting Robert Pattinson, and you see these tentacles and the
barnacles in his hair and everything,
and the cockle shells all over him and stuff. And you still never know at the end. You're like, was Robert Pattinson just tripping the fuck out, like having a breakdown? Or is this really what's going on? Because he does turn into like 2-3 other people. Mm-hmm. He's the mermaid, right? He turns into like Proteus, I guess. And then he turns into Thomas's old boss.
Yeah.
Dude, it makes you wonder at that point, like, is it really just Willem Dafoe fucking with him at all these turns? Like when he sees the mussy in the first place, you know what I mean? Like, was he laying on top? Like if you were to see it from an outsider's perspective, like Fight Club, you know when in Fight Club at the end it shows him just fighting himself?
Yeah.
Like if you were to see it from that perspective, would he be humping Willem Dafoe out on the rocks?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like he has no clue.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man.
And if it is, it makes you wonder, like, because this movie has so much homoeroticism in it, like, is that one of the reasons he's tricking him? He's like, damn, if I turn into a mermaid and give him some mussy, he'll fuck me. And he doesn't even know, dog.
He does bring that up, actually. I don't know if you guys catch it. That is that something that you do? He tells them that you get young sailors like me to just bring up here. He kind of alludes
like, you
that,
get off on molesting me.
Yeah, something like that. That's exactly what it is. He almost alludes to it, and that's where I was gonna say that it almost seems to me that it's a little of both, because he has such, this movie, just like Nightmare Alley, has like, once you drink, these repressed emotions come out, and it's this stuff that you were trying to keep secret comes out, and then the real you comes out. And I think because Willem Dafoe might be like a god or a mythic creature, he just takes advantage of a person who's not going to be missed or anything.
Me and you keep bringing up Nightmare Alley so much, we're starting to sound like a guy who's only seen Nightmare Alley. It's giving me a lot of Nightmare Alley vibes.
And it's funny is we saw this movie before Nightmare Alley.
Years before.
And then we didn't say in Nightmare Alley. This is giving me the Lighthouse vibes.
Oh,
it's so funny.
We did say that when Nightmare Alley came out, because Willem Dafoe's like, man, our beast. I'm like, another speech.
Oh,
That's true.
Yeah. Do it again.
He's even in it.
We haven't even brought this up yet, but the setting is 1890s New England. So I do think that adds to it because it's a period piece. Is it just me, or does it feel like when stuff is old like this, you're like, I believe it that there was a god there?
Oh, yeah.
We
Right?
talked about that with
Because it was that long ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Like now, no. There's too many satellites in the sky, bro. It blocks the signal. So the gods can't really be on Earth anymore because the grid.
Exactly.
But in 1890s, you'd be like, there was deaf gods
They were out
walking
here.
around.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, we talked about that with the witch, because I was like, yeah, there's no witches now. Like,
Nah.
But back
There's
then,
only crystal mommies
hell
now.
yeah, there were.
Exactly. It's only
Yeah,
crystal
it's just
mommies.
crystal mommies now. It's no actual witches. That's how confident I feel in saying that. I'm begging for a curse Put it on me.
Let's see what happens.
Just curious.
Please don't.
What would you guys say is your favorite scene from this movie?
Oh, that's so hard.
That's a really good question.
Robert Pattinson jacking off. Robert Pattinson jacking off the other time.
Robert Pattinson watching Willem Dafoe through the people humping the bed.
Is that what it's doing?
I think so. That's what I took from it. Because he slowly just, it was really comfortable.
I just assumed he kept his ass out because he is so gassy.
No, because when I was watching it today, he is like slowly rocking back and forth on the bed.
Damn.
So, yeah.
It's
It's spicy.
Getting that pussy
He's
from
also
the bed.
he's also imagining the mussy.
Exactly. Oh my God, dude.
You know that shot of the peephole? I was in the behind the scenes.
I just thought it was.
In the behind the scenes, I heard that the way they came up with framing that shot is that one of Robert Pattinson's friends, who's also a filmmaker, had made a film around that time, and they did a peephole shot. So he was like, "This is how you make it look like that," because it looks so far away.
It does.
right?
Like his eyes like so big. It like when you see Robert Pattinson's eye, like it's so close up, but then Willem Dafoe, it looks like he's like really far away.
Yeah.
It's a really cool shot.
It's like he's looking through a telescope. or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it. Go ahead, bro.
Oh, I was gonna say because when he finds the mermaid in that bed, it's in a hole and it has like hair there.
That's because that's how they used to make the mattresses back in the day.
It's hair.
Horse hair.
Okay.
Got
Never
their
mind.
fucking Robert Pattinson's bed.
I just thought he was using the hole, man. There's hair in there.
I'm gonna take that as canon.
Check your socks. I've been starching
God.
your tube socks at night.
Hey, dude, when did I get a waterbed?
It smells like jism.
Like, no wonder it
Oh
smells
my
like it's
God.
jism all around me.
But my favorite scene from this movie, there's a lot of scenes there's a lot of shots I really like too. Specifically, a shot that I really like is when the storm comes and the lightning is just crashing over the rocks. Like,
Doesn't that feel like they took it from a 1930s documentary?
dude, I swear, I used to have a picture. I don't know if I still have it on my phone, but I used to have a picture of a painting on my phone that it was from like I don't even know, like the 1800s, and it just reminded me of that shot. Like it was a shore break with the storm, and I was like, oh my God.
that is a really good shot.
But I think probably my favorite scene. I mean, obviously, I really like Willem Dafoe's monologue. The "You're not fond of me" lobster scene. Yeah, that's incredible. But besides that, the scene where they're just fucking going at it and they're like chugging the alcohol and
dancing?
like and dancing and it's just spilling all over their face and like that's such like a nightmarish scene to me. Like
Dance, Winslow, dance.
it's a lot like and it's really uncomfortable for me. So I really like that one. I like that one.
I think for me, it has to be where he finds that the seagull is the other seagull's like dead in their water stuff. Like as soon as he turns on the water and it's like even in black and white, this is how the shadows are so good. I looked at it like that water looks disgusting, and it's and I could tell it's brown in black and white and or red or whatever. And when he goes over to see what's in it, and there's a seagull dead in it, and then the other one lands and kind of starts like, I guess, snitching on him. The seagull thinks that he killed the other seagull, and then him just going off on the seagull. Because I think you had brought it up before, it just solidifies, like, now you're fucked.
Because
Like,
then
no one's coming for
you.
you.
You get the camera shot up to the top of the lighthouse, and you see the wind just switches like the wind dial, and
That's
it's like
puppet work.
the winds have literally
Exactly.
just changed. Like the story has just changed.
I forgot to write his name down, but that's a specific like puppeteer who did that to make it just move like
That's
that.
cool.
So I wanted to bring this up too because you talked about the water. Classic movie trick when Robert Pattinson is attempting to get a cup of water and it comes out all dark and bloody. I guess it's supposed to be bloody.
It's supposed to be
Potentially,
blood,
yeah.
Classic Hershey syrup.
Yeah,
go
it's
to forever.
It just looks like it. Yeah,
Go-to.
it just looks
Money.
so good.
And also-
the whole like where the water that it's in looks like it's full of Hershey.
I think this is a perfect time to bring it up because in the behind the scenes when they show that shot and him fucking up the seagull, the sound and the music in this movie. This is one of the scenes where those two things go in tandem.
Yeah.
And I think the sound and the music in this movie work together so well that sometimes you can't tell what's the score and what's just like a creaky, rickety.
And the foghorn the
Sound.
whole time,
yeah.
constantly going throughout the whole
My
movie.
dog kept looking up at that because that's a sound that it's really interesting actually. It's like it's similar to a sound I do to him when I want him to lay down. I don't know why he's scared of it. It must like buzz weird on his ears or something. But that Lighthouse, because I was watching it on the big TV, he just kept looking up and just
So
foghorn.
the composer's Mark Corvin and the sound design is by Damien Volpe. And Jaron Blaschke and Robert Eggers said that, and we've never really emphasized this as much as we should. that the sound in movies, I'm not talking about just music, the actual sound is just as important as
Yes.
the cinematography or the direction or the writing.
Just
It
as
really
important.
makes the experience so much better when it's on point. And this movie is, because it's so atmospheric and eerie, so much of it has to do with the sound. It's like all the old machines and the foghorn constantly going and getting that balance right of not making you want to turn off the movie. And be like,
Exactly.
dude, this fucking foghorn. Because the first time I saw it in theaters, I was like, this sucks.
It's just gonna get annoying. Yeah.
And it definitely got annoying.
And it's also the things you're talking about: walk, creak, drip, drip, like,
Yeah.
and just enough amount. Like, it rained this much this night, so now it's gonna drip more. It only rained this much that night. So it's not gonna drip at all.
This movie's got heavy guy sleeping on a cot with a drop of water going over his nose, going me 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 me, and blowing it back.
Seriously. Oh my
what's
god, what a
That's so
reference.
funny. That's so funny.
It reminds me of like a 1930s satanic scary cartoon.
Yeah, for real.
Made by some ether heads. Like,
Is your favorite scene the speech?
no, I don't know. I think it might be the first dinner together, just because you're so scared of Willem Dafoe and he hasn't said anything at that point, and then you see that he's trying to come off as this nice guy. Like, come on, let's have a drink together, and let's celebrate that we're gonna be here with each other. And yeah, I don't know. I think that scene is because it sets up the whole dynamic. It's like Robert Pattinson is just total edgelord. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. Like, really, we're going to be here for a month and you're not going to say
Yeah.
anything to me? But yeah, I don't know. It is possibly that scene.
It's hard. I know it's hard.
You could pick any scene
I might
on.
have to make an amendment later and change that. But what I did want to bring up about that first dinner scene is that, you know how the kerosene lamp that they have on the table is like extra bright? For all of the lights in the movie, they used 100-watt light bulbs. So these things are bright as fuck.
Interesting.
So during that first dinner scene, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe couldn't even see each other.
just blinded sitting there.
That's how bright the light was. They couldn't see across from each other, so they're just acting, and the camera's cutting back and forth. And the crew members are wearing sunglasses. It's so ungodly bright.
That's really cool that you said that, because I think that goes back to, it explains to me why the movie looks the way that it looks too. So you're filming already on high, you said 80 ISO, which is like high, bright. It picks up bright light. But then you use that same one light to give you the whole ambiance of the room. So then by the end of the room, it's super dark because that one light is strong at its source. But for it to light the whole place, then it gets really eerie and dark. So then when you pan out and you get these shots similar to like the table we're sitting at now, their faces are so blown up in white, it's almost indistinguishable. But then it starts to get darker.
Everything
darker,
behind
and
was
darker
black.
behind them.
Yeah, dude. They also use those crazy ass light bulbs for the actual light in the lighthouse. And the island that they were filming on was like somewhere between 12 and 16 miles across the bay from this place called Yarmouth. And the light was so bright that it was shining in people's windows from that
Shit,
distance.
60 miles.
Like
Oh
they
my
said, lobster fishermen over there were like, "Yeah, bro, we could see that at night."
That's crazy.
And it's funny because lighthouses are basically irrelevant now. Like
Yeah.
they still do use them, but they have GPS and stuff like that. And Robert Eggers was saying that like the fishermen over there are proud of like, bro, I could get home drunk in a fog storm, like in heavy fog because of the GPS, and like I know my way around here. So like lighthouses are just so obsolete now, but that's a cool piece of Americana, and I know
Yes,
they
it
have them all
is.
over, but
They're really
I
cool.
always think that's like such an American thing, like a lighthouse.
I love
small one.
lighthouses.
Have you ever
I
been
think so
to-
many
I've seen some bigger
rom-coms
ones.
having walks by lighthouses
Yeah,
in our,
of course.
back when we were kids.
Exactly. Oh my
I
god.
think that's why I'm so fond of that look and think it's
true.
so American, even if it's not.
I am gonna say that just overall look, to me, Robert Eggers is what he is, because I don't think anybody could really defines the word Gothic as well as he does in terms of in cinema, and I think that goes back to why it's kind of hard sometimes to call his movies horror, but they are Gothic in its element, and it goes back to Metropolis, like you said. All of his influences, they're not horror movies, but they are Gothic, like Germanic, like just there's a lot to tell with shadows and a lot to tell with like almost scenes of plays.
I think we had brought this up last week. Nate talked about it earlier, though. Like that painting called the Hypnotist.
It's hypnosis, I think. Yeah.
Hypnosis. I don't know. I don't remember exactly if we had talked about this. Maybe you guys will. But that he said Robert Eggers said when he was young, he put away his Marvel comic books because he got into like medieval art and like German expressionist art and stuff like that. And that's where so many of his influences come from. And I don't know why, but that stuff is so scary, right?
Yeah, it is.
Even if it's not meant to be. I don't know. Maybe it's because of in that time period what those people were feeling in real life reflecting their art. Because I mean, if this is like if the German expressionist movement is in like the 30s, and then the two, it's sandwiched between the two world wars. I guess I could see why you'd have such a bleak, scary outlook on life, right?
Because
Exactly.
the hypnosis was done by, it was Sasha Snyder. She's German in 1904.
That's a guy. I seen the picture.
Oh, it is a guy? Okay, got you.
Sasha's one of those names where if you're American, that's a girl name, and if you're European, that's a dude's name.
Sasha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
I didn't mean any disrespect.
I don't mean any disrespect to that guy who's been dead for 200 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say it almost seems like this is be kind of going a little off topic, but just like Robert Eggers would tackle something like we've joked about this, like Van Helsing, right? Like there's that Gothic feeling, but then like almost he would do. I bet you he would kill a Jack the Ripper movie, you know?
Yeah.
In terms of just the feeling of what you just said, it makes sense to me that something like Jack the Ripper would have existed before. Like we never knew who it was because it just. There was no.
He moved to another town and changed his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
got away.
And
now he's the sheriff.
Exactly.
So those premises do become the scariest because we know if you were alive, like, dude, they're not gonna catch him. Or they like, how are we supposed to find out? All he has to do is literally come at night, wear black. No one saw him. No one saw him.
And that's it. Just got away.
And Robert Eggers tackles those. Does in such a unique way where I think it almost every single time feels like you're watching a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you guys, The Witch, it felt like I was one of those middle school ones that I'd watch called like Felicity. I think it was like, oh, this is what it was like when they came into like the settlements in America. And it does seem fucking scary to have like winter when you don't know if you're going to be alive for
you
it.
gonna die.
It's the scariest.
Winter's coming.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you were trying to bring this up, but shit. What did you just say right now? Not the thing right before the settlement stuff. Oh, no.
About the German expressionism?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have forgotten.
We'll have to come back to this.
Cut it.
Cut this. Where do you guys want to go from here? We haven't really talked about this. Well, Nate, did you say your favorite scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still undecided, I think. Maybe we'll get to it. But where do you guys want to go from here? Because we have been talking about it for an hour. And I feel like we haven't really cracked into it too much.
We could, we could keep going with the story. We haven't really concluded what really happens towards closer ends.
I got it. Thank you. Okay.
Let's come back to me.
Let's come back. What you were saying right now about Jack the Ripper and how scary, about
Jack the Ripper.
like the Gothic stuff about like you could just get away. This movie has that similar vibe of it feels like it happens and that no one will care or ever notice. It's just going to go away in the night, right?
It really
and
will.
And I don't. Is that what you? I feel like that ties to what you were saying.
I wasn't gonna go there, but that's a good point. I was just gonna say like that he holds such a weight to bring such importance to those stories in terms of. Well, actually, that's a good point. That only Eggers cares about these two sailors story that I wouldn't know about the two sailor story at all if he didn't bring it up. And I didn't even know it was based on reality till you brought that up, Nate. And I think it's like Robert Eggers understands that, yes, Thanos might be scary, but that's made up. There is some more things that are tied in reality that were scary at a time when you really wouldn't have had answers for them.
I like that point of view. Like
Robert Eggers doesn't subscribe to that lifestyle.
No, I mean, and it is gnarly. Because people, like you said, like people won't care about it. Like people will show up on that island whenever their relief comes and just be like, damn. Like that sucks.
Like, yo, we never picked them up.
Yeah, like I
they
guess
probably got home.
we'll just send more people out there. But then you have Robert Eggers who hears about this story. Whatever. I think it was in like a magazine or a newspaper, and then he makes a whole fucking story from it. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty cool to see him do that.
And it's just funny that you guys bring that up. Just something that happened literally right before he started the podcast, because a lot of Eggers' stuff is coming up because of the Northman. Obviously, we're doing the episode because of that, but they had asked him, just as they've been asking every director nowadays, if he had seen the Batman, and he said he did see it, but it's funny because he said he doesn't like watching
Marvel
movies
or
superhero movies, but he watched it because Pattinson's his friend,
Respect.
and he said he liked it.
Yeah. It's a damn good movie.
Um,
I subscribe to that.
Yeah, I subscribe to that life.
Where we could go, because we haven't talked about it yet, and we always try to bring this up, is the drip in this movie. I know it's
The
black
drip
and
is
white,
nice.
but the drip is pretty insane.
It is
right?
there, dude. Yeah.
This is a workwear movie.
From when they pull up in their little sailor outfits and shit, looking all.
Beards.
Yep. The
They
beards.
they made everything. Everything they wore was created by Linda Muir and her team, and part of the behind the scenes I was watching focuses on the outfits. So they make outfits. They made sure the outfits were separated between like ranks too. So like Willem Dafoe's is super nice. Like it's got these K buttons on the lapels, and it's like for keeper because he's the keeper of the house, right? And Robert Pattinson's doesn't look fancy at all. It's just kind of basic.
A muggle.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe's has like United States Lighthouse like establishment buttons on going the whole way down. His hat is even different. Like his is double embroidered, so it sticks out.
That's cool.
And Robert Pattinson's is just single embroidered. The sweaters, the way that they're like hand stitched and stuff, like it's incredible. And the overalls and the pants they made straight up look like Carhartts. I was like, damn, that's
They really
rad.
do. I love the rain jacket and the rain hat that he's always
they're
wearing
called
too.
oilskins.
Oilskins.
Yeah,
It's
so they
cool.
made those too. It was just so cool to see all the outfits made and to see them in color too, because a lot of it's gray. There was some gray stuff, some navy stuff. That oilskin stuff is like a brownish green, like natural olive color. Yeah, I know. I thought it was the Paddington color too.
Seriously.
That's what I was
You know what that
expecting.
mean?
No, I don't think so.
Man, it's Robert Pattinson when he's wearing the oilskin and the hat, but they made it look like Paddington.
That's
so
funny.
it's blue and red.
Shout out Paddington too.
You know the scene? Oh, this might be one of my favorite shots. It's them standing there on the cliff waiting for the tender to come, and it's blowing in the rain.
Yeah.
There's a Photoshop picture where they added Paddington to it.
No, really? One of the funniest scenes. Sorry, actually. Go ahead.
Well, the last thing I'm going to say about that shot is I think it is my favorite individual shot of the movie, and the wind really was blowing and the rain was going, so they had to put a tent around the camera and just hold it still so the camera wouldn't fly away.
Holy shit.
And Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson were literally just standing there
Getting blasted by it.
getting whipped by it all.
That's crazy.
All right, go.
No, but that's funny. That's actually kind of ties into what I think is funny is when he's trying to get rid of like it's shit, right?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
shit
and he
piss,
throws it
yeah.
back in his
And he
face.
just
The scream was like, damn, dude.
Like last night when I was watching, I was just dying at that scene because I've always remembered that from the first one that was something like it was so fucking funny because it just of course it's like it just made me resonate with like when you're having the worst day and just you're fucking you hit your elbow on the fucking end of something, you're like, God damn it.
That's another contender for me is emptying the shit, and then he gets the mussy, right?
Yep.
He fucks the mermaid. Then he screams like a madman in the
Oh,
rocks. And then Willem Dafoe's got one of the funniest line deliveries. He's like, "Why are you splitting your lungs? You smell of shit."
That's true.
Oh my god.
Another cool scene actually is I think is that during the same time he gets out of the shed and he starts smoking and he sees up at the lighthouse and Willem Dafoe is coming out of the lighthouse.
Starfish.
Yeah, he's
attached
just-
to the fucking light.
The light going in the background, you can see his shadow at first. It's like, wait, what?
Put his dick in the light.
And then as he's coming out, he's like putting his
Pussy
buckling
open.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're like, why were you naked up there?
Yo, am I tripping or were you naked up there?
And it just ties back to what we were talking about, just not knowing what's going on here. I think it has to be an element of both. This movie is scary because you're confused the whole time.
Yeah.
Be honest. What do you think is the time period of this movie? Like, is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? Have they been there for a day?
I mean,
They've definitely
so
been there more than one day.
well, yeah, for sure. Do you think they had been there the 4 weeks and then
I
they
think 3
actually
weeks.
didn't get picked up, or do you think that wasn't even 4 weeks and Willem Dafoe was fucking with them? Because I think they were there for the 4 weeks
I think
originally,
so too.
and then the storm came. And after the storm came, I mean, it could be anywhere from like 2 to 3 days to a few more weeks.
I think
I
Pats
don't
is
know.
right that because they got drunk the night before so much, they might have missed it.
Maybe.
So you do think they've been there for
In the
weeks?
storm, yes. So I do think the timeline is right. And then kind of how I agree with you, Nate, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is that I think then he starts fucking with them. And I do think he had brought it up that when the storm comes that bad, they're not going to come out. Like, it's not because the storm in the island is not done yet. Like, in the inland, it might be done, but in the island, it's still very hectic. And to get there for one person, be like, no, I'm sorry. They're
It's
probably
like it
just
neither
gonna...
launches nor lands. Yeah, like the storm just keeps going forever. It was a vengeful storm.
Yeah, like I really just wonder, even I've seen it so many times, like I really do just wonder how long they were there. Because I mean, like that one, whenever Robert Pattinson like wakes up and like the food, he's like, we got to start rationing kind of thing, and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He's like, in 75, old Stryker was marooned here for 7 months.
Like what?
No, yeah, when they have to start rationing, he's like, the dam's got to the provisions. It's just too much alcohol. I don't know. See, there's so many scenes. It's all the Willem Dafoe scenes where he turns it on and he turns on Pattinson that are my favorites. It's like when he's telling him, he's like, I've told you to ration for weeks. He's like, no, it's only been a day.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
like, I'm not trying to be stuck here with some lunatic. And then he tells him, he's like, look at ye pretending. That might be one of my favorite
That's
scenes
really
too.
fucking good.
He gaslights so good, he gaslights me. I don't know how long they were on that damn
Because
island.
it's just, and then when he destroys the rowboat,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And he
that's
gets
what I
back,
was
he's
gonna
like,
get
you did it. It's like, what? That's when I was
like,
finally
yeah.
like, what the fuck is
destroyed the
going
boat, and he's like,
on?
you tried to stab old Tom with an axe.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck's going on?
And then that's why I brought up it before the pod. I brought up to you where he's like, you better give me ye kitchen knife.
Oh, yeah. When
He's like, you're not fit to
he
carry.
clocks that Robert Pattinson takes that kitchen knife and
yeah.
he still lets him keep it for a while.
And then he's like, you know what? I'm not feeling safe anymore. You need to give that back.
Them's government property.
I'll dock it from your wages.
And he already did. Dude,
And
what the fuck?
That actually reminds me of, like, there's a scene where it seems like Pats is gonna end this fool, and he wakes up, and it almost seems like this is really amazing because it's just a shot of Defoe's eye, and it almost seems like he's looking at him straight into the eye, and like, I know what you were gonna do.
like, oh, yeah.
I'm awake, and then it almost makes it seem like, oh, I'll just dismiss what was gonna happen to let him calm him down. Like, dude, you don't know what I'm brewing for you.
Quick cinematography side note. The reason that scene and the close-ups of their eyes is so not well shot, but it's so interesting looking is because of the film and the filter that they used. They have blue eyes. So the blue eyes look extra bright. So with all that darkness surrounding it, and then you just have these bright blue eyes in the middle.
That's really
and then the
cool.
film and the filter adding that effect. It's why it looks so special. I don't even
It
know
pops.
how
It just pops.
It
Yeah.
pops.
Because I almost thought it was like, we talked about this in the Batman too, like eye acting. Just, it's one eye, and I just felt so much emotion through that one eye. Like I just said, like, I know what you're gonna fucking do, but you have no idea what I'm brewing for you.
Yeah.
I like how he even in his sleep, he's not really scared of him. He's like, now see to your duties before I get up and really yell at you.
He's such a dick, dude.
Queer way to wear your shoes.
My God.
He's like, he's the same person whether he's not drunk or drunk. It's just that when he's drunk, he's more friendly to him. But he never really. He's actually a mystery. Is what's funny. It's juxtaposed to someone who's actually a mystery.
So it's like if you see it in that like religious point of view, or through that eye, is he like sacrificing Robert Pattinson? It's like, I know he dies, right, and we see him get killed, but was the point? What is the point of like what he's doing with the light? Like, how, are they working together? Like, does he kill these people for the light, or does he get the light to kill these people? Like, I still have so many questions, and I know that's the point of the movie. Like, this movie's so much more ambiguous than The Witch, and it leaves you with so many more questions than answers. So I just never understand. I'm like, what was the point of the gaslighting and the lying? Was it because it's just fun to fuck with people?
I think it's to maintain his control over the people, probably.
Yeah.
Like to keep himself in charge. And like anytime somebody kind of tries, like when he tries to go out against him, he lies to him and he gaslights him to be like, see, you're not even fucking mentally well, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
He even
Maybe
goes so far to tell him, like, I'm a figment of your imagination. This rock isn't real. You're up in the forest in Canada, frostbitten,
Like, bitch.
screaming like a maniac. And he's like, this is all
Okay.
just a figment of your imagination. You're frozen up there in the tundra.
I mean,
what the fuck?
and like I also just wonder like how fucked up was Willem Dafoe in the head? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I will say, when you put it in that sense, it almost seems like because of the fate that Pat's character has, his destiny was to go to this island and die. Because it seems like, as him being the light keeper of this house, he's heard it a bunch of times of all these people that want their own lighthouse. But as him being so selfish as he is, he's like, you're going to die here. Like, you're never going to have your own lighthouse.
And I think it goes back to like you even got to think like what happened to Willem Dafoe's previous partner. the same exact thing. He went mad and he died. There's no explanation for it.
He tells him to his face.
Yeah.
Too. Like there's so much that he's blunt and open about. He's just very bold and will tell him straight up, like, "Oh, what happened? He went insane and he died." Talking about sirens and merfolk and
Right.
enchantment in the light.
And it's like, is this something that Willem Dafoe consciously does to where, like, I want these people to go mad because, you know, whatever reason, he's a god and he has to sacrifice them, or he's just a fucked up human being and, like, likes to see people in peril? I don't know. Or is that just who he is and he really just drives people to the extreme?
Madness.
Yeah, like, I don't know. So,
Part of
very
me
complex character.
Likes to just think that it's just like he uses the wikis to upkeep the lighthouse, but he's just interested in having
You have
sex
to
with the fucking
maintain the
lighthouse.
sacrifices.
Because, like, yeah, like, he really does, like, maintain that control over them so he doesn't do anything.
He doesn't do
He
anything,
doesn't do
that's why.
shit. Like, everything's taken care of and he can just go beat off for the light every night. Like,
Because he says the one time, I forgot what it is that he tells him. He's like, "What do you think?" Oh, and after he's up in the lighthouse putting the oil, and then he's like, "What are you thinking about?" And it's after he killed the seagull, so he's kind of feeling guilty about it. He's like, "No, I'm just thinking I'm gonna need help to board up the."
keeping secrets, are we?
Yeah, and he knows like keeping secrets, are we? And then but that's the only time he's like, "I'm gonna need your help to do this. I can't do this one alone."
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time he helps. But then when he's pulling the crab thing, you just see him. He's like, "Pull, pull, Thomas, pull."
You know, let's talk about that for a second. All of the work stuff, right? I want to talk about these work tasks. When he has him lifted up on the lighthouse and he's telling him, like, you got to make this thing look shinier than a whorehouse token,
Yeah.
right? And then he like when he tells him, he's like, "You're making good marks in me book. Them's gospel." And then he drops him on the floor.
Exactly.
And then he just completely leaves him there, right? It's like, where did he even go? Did he just walk back down? He's like,
Okay.
that's a shame.
I'm gonna go have a
House.
drink. Yeah, like, what?
Or yeah, pulling the lobster pot. That's another thing. He's just so fucking lazy. He's watching him with it's like what is it? A fucking dry rag rubbing the kerosene tanks.
Yeah,
Doesn't even look
exactly.
he's
He's
doing
like polishing the tanks or whatever.
He brings up Pattinson's character that he wanted to do this because he heard they earn $1,000 a month to being a lighthouse keeper.
anything. No, it's a year.
A year?
Yeah, dog. You
I
gotta
don't-
remember this is 1890.
No,
That's like $1 million.
No, because at first I thought that's why I thought it was like, well, duh, fuck, I would have done it too if it was still like even then that money is like amazing.
I do it right now for $1,000.
Yeah, right. Like, but he said a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's still a lot of money for the back then. And obviously, if you're the only person up there upkeeping it, it makes sense that it would be that type of paying. Like, but it seems like he gets people like Robert Pattinson's character who are kind of there, I guess, to just train or destined because they're kind of piece of shit people that are running away from something. And he just takes advantage of them kind of to upkeep the lighthouse for it to still be around.
Yeah, I mean, it just I will always have questions and never have any answers for this movie. I could change my mind tomorrow and be like, that makes just as much sense
Yeah,
as what I thought
honestly.
yesterday. It's just such a good movie.
Like his foot, the whole foot thing too. Like the story of his foot. He has like
Oh,
two
it changes.
stories. Yeah.
He's got two different stories, right? It's gangrene and the
girl house.
the rats gnawing
Yeah.
the souls of sailors.
He's like,
And
you
then,
lied
yeah, the
about that.
whorehouse, right? That's another contention for my favorite scene. He's like, "Oh, Catholics, they were." He's like, "You ever feel shame when you lie with the woman?" I ain't ashamed of
Nothing. These are laughing.
They're like all boys about it. They're like,
Yeah. Ha, ha, ha.
I did like that you brought up the scene where they get really drunk, then to start dancing. That is like
These
a
go
really
completely
that energy
unhinged.
it's unhinged.
Yeah,
it's,
it's-
they're going mad together.
Yeah, it's a lot.
They're singing sea shanties.
Yeah, that's a lot,
Dude,
dude.
let
And
me
like,
go.
when they're just like, you know, going back and forth, like in the pounding of their feet on the floorboards, like
That's
it's
what my
just
neighbors upstairs
Dance,
are doing.
Winslow,
apparently.
dance.
yeah, exactly. Like that shit's a fucking lot, dude. I can't, but like, I honestly can't I cannot believe that they started drinking fucking kerosene, like mixing the kerosene with the
Oh,
sugar
yeah,
or the
that's
honey or whatever it
true.
was. Like,
Monkey pump.
like,
yeah,
like,
monkey pump.
yeah, exactly.
I forgot about
And then
that.
they're
Such
just
a
pounding
good
on their chest,
scene.
dude. But like, and then you also gotta like, you gotta think like, well, I wonder why he starts hallucinating like fucking crazy because they're not eating food and they're drinking fucking kerosene. Like
That's what I
that
started
can't
thinking,
add to
too.
any positives towards their mental well-being, you know. So
That was an element that I had caught more this time that I had never the other times paid attention to. That I thought it was like some type of moonshine, but obviously they only have when they go to light, it's kerosene. So if you're digesting that, be like, are both of these fools tripping out?
I don't know, dude.
It's just like that's why there's just so many things that add to like maybe this is why or maybe this is why, but it's just all these different factors I think combining to just send them off the deep end.
And that's the themes that are prevalent in both of the movies, The Witch and The Lighthouse. So far is that the unknown. Even in The Witch, we talked about it last week. Like Thomason, you think we're with Thomason. Thomason seems this, and then all these things happen. You're like, you almost feel like your dad. Like, well, it has to be you, right? Like I just saw it, and like how he says, like in those primitive times. Same thing here. Like Pattinson's like, I saw the tentacle come up from the lighthouse. Like when I went, it was
Your tentacle jizzed on me.
the
I
squid,
was there.
the squid literally, like, it jizzed on me. Be like, so what? Like, I could be tripping this, but like, it like almost landed on me. So like, what's up?
The guy actually holding the camera in that shot did get the tentacle jizz on himself.
Nice.
Like it dropped onto him. Like, you know, when it's like drop, Robert Pattinson sees it drop between his face.
It all fell on him.
It
That's
actually
so
hit
funny.
somebody. So we haven't talked about this yet, but the actual lighthouse that they built it true dimensions. So it's only like 8x8. So they had to film that stuff on a stage and take apart the house or take apart the light to actually put the camera in.
Yeah, it's too
Interesting.
narrow.
Robert Eggers was saying something he had learned from James Wan is that to make something more suspense and to add tension to it, you want to have these long hallways, right? That don't even make sense for the house. Like, how could they have a hallway that's 12 feet long? You know what I mean? Yeah, man,
island
no
house.
wonder this shit's scary. And that was one of the things that, like, you know how there's the house that they stay in, and then there's the long house that's connected
On
to
the
the
lighthouse,
light.
yeah.
That was kind of where he got that idea from. It's like James Wan taught me to. A long
Make that shit
long
long.
hallway makes it a lot scarier, and then having those like claustrophobic, tense interior scenes of the lighthouse, it just adds to that tension even more. And we haven't even talked about this yet either. Is the aspect ratio? So
Yeah,
originally
that's
it was
what I
going to
was
be
gonna bring up,
1:3:3, but then Jaron Blaschke was like, "You want this movie to feel isolated and suffocating? Let's go 1:1:9," and then they made it even smaller and even boxier. And I think, like symbolically, what the cinematography is trying to get across is that isolated,
It's tight, yeah.
madness feeling, and that's why it's so tight. But then in the exterior scenes, it still feels so wide. Like I don't feel like I'm missing anything. It does
Exactly.
feel like they're capturing every
Yeah.
single thing they need.
It doesn't feel like anything's cut off or
That's
anything.
where it reminds you. Is that a Macbeth? Is a similar aspect ratio?
It's either 1:3 or 1. It was Academy ratio. It might be a tiny bit.
Yeah, like a tiny bit different, but that is something I forgot to bring up earlier. I wanted to bring up that it definitely makes it again seem more tied into German expressionism because they used to use that aspect ratio all the time.
Yeah.
too.
Sorry.
No.
It just goes right back into even like what we were talking about, like with the paintings and stuff. Like it really just
Exactly.
frames it like exactly how you would imagine
Good
it.
point. And I think that's why when you get the characters straight down the middle, it looks like a portrait, like the picture that Gus is wearing, because it's a square like that. It's just very interesting how I've always thought how that thing kind of went full circle, like things being shot in a square format, and then social media came back up. Instagram just clogged up
Back
that,
to the
like,
square.
The Grand Cinema Hotel uses a 1x1 on Instagram.
Macbeth was 1:3:7.
So a little bit
So it's even
different.
different.
Yeah.
Even more different. Yeah, but that was something that changed when they got on set, was the idea of shooting it in an even more suffocating box than the one than it was already planned to be. And I think that works. Like I don't know if I need this movie to be wide to get the point across. I think those shadows, especially when we were in the theater, the way that the movie has all these shadows on the edges. What do they call that shit? The vignetting too. All the vignetting. When you're watching it on the giant movie screen, the two sidebars just make it feel like it's more shadow. So it doesn't feel like it's actually like a box. It just feels like you're seeing a box. Like everything takes place in the box, but then there's just shadow.
Kind of just like
everywhere.
melts out into the
it all blends
sidebars.
together.
I see what
Yeah.
you mean.
And I think that makes
That's
it
a
look
good
even
point.
better because it's
You're
like,
right.
damn, it's even bigger. Like they're in this tiny little space.
There's even
This
more
huge
shit
room.
out here. Yeah.
The first time I found it, or the first time we saw it, almost felt like lost footage because of that. And I can talk about like this movie could have been from 1930s, and I would believe it.
Like that kid in my class.
yeah,
I mean, like, yo, how did they film this?
They had cameras back then?
you know what's one
They
interesting
did though.
thing?
They had cameras
yeah,
in the
they
1890s.
did. They did.
An interesting thing that I wanted to bring up is that I found out. Obviously, I've been wanting to collect a lot of these in like physical media. There hasn't been a 4K release for the Lighthouse, but it was shot in 4K. So that was interesting because to see it once it does get released in the 4K in theaters, it was released in 4K. So that's why I feel like I remember it being so like
really good in
really,
theaters.
really good in
I can see
detail,
that.
even though the lenses are old. And I was watching it yesterday, just thinking like I can't wait to see it again in 4K. You know,
For real.
Okay, I had been meaning to bring this up earlier when we were talking about Thomas looking into the light and going mad, and we've had this conversation for years now about why does Robert Pattinson's face, it's all covered in blood, right, when he goes up there, and you know how the more insane he goes, it looks like it's washing away. So because of them, it's like the first real shot of the light. There is like a red glow on it. They finally took off the filter and let the red light come through. So it looks like it's washing the blood off of his face, but it's the transition from the filter to taking it off. And that's why the blood looks like it disappears, like the more insane he goes. And I had always wondered about that. Because like the sound gets like super blown out, and then all the blood on his face looks like it's disappearing. And it's because of the filter. So they took it off, and it's the only shot in the movie where they use that filter
to get that effect, basically.
To get that effect, yeah, I was making it look like the blood's coming off of his face.
It's so badass.
Because like, it almost seems like whatever he's seeing is so powerful that it literally just washed his face away with. I guess what did he say? The wiki
wash
thought
the
that
sins off of him.
No, because the wiki, the original wiki that died before him, had said that light, he thought it would be salvation, true salvation, or something like that. And that's what, like, once Pat's character sees that's what it seems like.
Yeah, he found the truth in the light finally.
And then he can't, and like you brought it up before, he can't handle it, or he's not worthy of it. So he coincidentally, which that's the other question I have. Like, I like how he just like stumbles right all the way down to the
breaks his legs and stumbles all the way down,
and then he's just like later he's like down by the beach, you know.
So he
picked up hard.
He gets Carson Wentz. He breaks both ankles
at the same damn time.
Jeez.
The only two people in the universe who ever done
the Lighthouse Aaron Donald him.
Oh my god.
Oh man! Since we're on the topic of the actual lighthouse, another thing that was interesting was that this movie was a pain in the ass for the guy who does the focus pulling. So we haven't ever talked about this yet. We always talk about cinematography in a very broad sense, but like handling a camera is sometimes a 2 to 3 man operation, right? You got the guy holding it, you got the guy holding the cords so no one trips and falls, and then you have the guy who's pulling focus the entire time to make sure the shot's staying in order or is staying in focus. And this guy, let me see, I think I wrote his name down. Did I? I hope I did. If not, I feel very bad about it because he did an amazing job. I did not. I couldn't get his name.
I just think, just bouncing off of what you're saying, is that having worked with cameras, I couldn't imagine how much stress it is to like, it's because it's so important to get that right. You know, so much of the feeling of I don't see this in focus, and then the next second I do, and it plays on the thoughts of our characters. Like, oh shit, it just came revealed to him that there's a knife there. And to like, I couldn't imagine how many, if that's what also takes a lot of takes, you know, like that's what people, when they say they do one take, I'm like, damn, they got all that stuff right on the first try.
I mean, just getting it in focus. When you start moving that camera, you're going to have to, it's like driving in reverse. Like, wait, left is right, right is left. Shit.
You know what scene they did do in one take was the monologue scene, the HAAAAAARK monologue.
Cool.
That was a one shot, one take done. Yeah, Robert Eggers was saying that Willem Dafoe didn't blink for like 2.5 minutes. Like he just, that's crazy.
So, well, I do want to talk about that. I think I'll save this because I did have one last thing to say about the Lighthouse, and then I'll get to that. They had to invent a pulley system for the cameras to get it to. So there's a couple shots where like it's showing Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, and then the camera moves, and then it goes to the lighthouse, and then it's at the bottom of the lighthouse, like on the interior, and it goes all the way to the top. They had to invent a pulley system for that, and then like keeping that in focus was such a pain in the ass. And then in this movie, they do such a good job of showing things that are not supposed to be in focus, like to keep the mystery. So like they do it with the mermaid too. Like the first time he's looking at the mermaid, it was another instance of them using a lens for the first time. They wanted her to look extra beautiful because she's supposed to look like man's desires, right? But and then if you notice, Robert Pattinson's hand, like for the only time in the movie, doesn't look all fucked up and raggedy and like weather beaten. Yeah. And it's because they literally had to use a different lens, and they used a different like they focused it different so that it looked better. And that was kind of a sacrifice they had to make. It was like, we're gonna break continuity here, but his hand's actually gonna look nice instead of completely beaten up how he
Yeah.
looks the rest of the movie.
Interesting. I honestly thought it was just somebody else's hand. Like
No.
I'm not even gonna lie. Like I really did. Because I did notice that.
All of those things are just stuff that if you don't know, like you don't, or like you noticed it because like you just said, like that hand doesn't match up, but it just works at such a creative level to have to give up those sacrifices. And a lot of times you're behind the scenes making stuff and you don't know what little, like he's been known for like being very tedious, right? Kind of like all those details and stuff. Well, they pay off, I think, and like that's why overall the movie works so well. Like he knows when to have to break continuity because it's gonna add that layer to the story. Like if I'm gonna break continuity, it's for me because it's something that needs to be.
This is more important than that is. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, a director's job is to find the best people to work with, and I think he finds people who care just as much as he does,
Yeah.
which is not easy because not everyone is gonna. These crew members are gonna go from job to job, and to find guys who are really as dedicated to your project as you are it's really tough. So, cheers to those guys.
They got a special thing going on.
Yeah, I hope he works with that crew as much as possible.
Like you said, sometimes it's not even we overlook cinematography as a whole
As one guy,
because
and it's
we're
not.
Yeah.
sometimes in here we're trying to like not just shoot you guys with all these facts and stuff, but they really are what makes this movie, like behind the scenes that really make this movie happen. You know, if you don't have a dedicated team that even wants to do those things or they half-ass these things, the movie doesn't come out like it does, and we're not sitting here amazed by it.
I mean, liking this stuff on this deep of a level is why we have a podcast, because I understand
Yeah.
that this is very boring to most people. Like, dude, I don't care that there's a guy who turns the ring on the camera.
Exactly.
You know what
That's
I
cool.
mean? But when you care, you want to know, like, who is doing this?
How
Because
did
it's-
they do this?
Yeah, how
Like,
did
yeah.
they do this?
Correct.
And it's like Universal Studios, dude. It's like how the movies are made. It's like,
Show me the magic.
I
like
love
I
that
really
stuff.
want to know.
And that just bounces back to a big
These shits don't make themselves, dude.
Yeah.
they don't. And a big issue with like that I've seen with people that have like big budget Marvel movies right now and the way that they look. And I've looked into that kind of stuff because you're like, Disney has all this money. How come their movies look this way? And it's because they overwork their CGI artists, you know, and they don't give them actual time to do stuff with time as other companies do. And I think that also kind of shows like just because something is made by a lot of money doesn't mean it's made with the same care that something with less money is made with.
Somebody like Robert Eggers would never let the production studio take the movie and source it out to third-party people and have 15 different
Exactly.
No way.
15 different CGI companies making one shot.
You can't make it look all like what this movie is authentic. Like if 15 different people can't think the same, they're not going to think that goth means the same thing. They're going to edit it all in their own different style.
That's why those movies look like that. Or like I was telling you guys off pod, I had watched Death in the Nile yesterday, and that was the look of that movie is disgustingly ugly. It looks like a PS2 graphics CGI. Like it's some of the worst CGI I've seen in a long time because it is so fake.
Damn.
Like it's ridiculous. Like snakes and fish that look like
Bad.
PS3 graphics.
That's crazy. I mean, that's why like what we're talking about is like this, like especially this movie, but I'm hoping for the Northman and the Witch as well. But like this is a culmination of Robert Eggers' vision that he was able to like share and give to these other people, and these people like ran with that, and they're like, okay, what can I do from my angle to make this vision what it should be? And I just think like you can't do that with a gigantic team, and you can't do that with crazy money, because you have to like, how can we be smart and resourceful with our money and put it towards, you know, do the ingenuity we need to do to make what we need to happen. And like it just shines, like it really does. And that's why this movie is what it is, man.
It also always goes back to, we could make, like this, for example, we can make a podcast of 3. We've had episodes where we necessarily don't all agree. But now imagine having a podcast with 20 and trying to like have one of us be the leader. And like, I think I have the best idea. Of course, the other 19 be like, no, I think I have the best idea.
We can't. The 3 of us can't even stay on track. Imagine 20 of us were trying
Exactly.
And so then that goes back to like Robert Eggers could sit down a team of 5 people and be like, you're my cinematographer. You're going to work on my sets. You're going to help me with the script. And all of them can get in conjunction and be like, okay, Robert Eggers is such a good visionary that we're all on ride with him. We're going to do with what he does. But Marvel will be like, dude, you're outsourcing people that have never met you. You're trying to get these A-list celebrities to listen to you, a director that sometimes gets, Chloe Zhao has 2 good movies and then gets pushed, and now you have to like act with Angelina Jolie, and then you have a timeline, you know, that you have to make this movie by, because we have 8 other ones that are lined up. If you don't drop this one at this time, then you're pushing the whole line. And at that point, like, what do you expect them to really do? You know, and
It's like an assembly line.
it's just an assembly line, and some of them work, some of them don't. You know, I like some of them, but none of them have as much care as a movie like this has, and this is why we were so nervous.
This movie cost $11 million.
Yeah. And I bet you half of that is literally like doing all the expensive stuff, like creating
Building a
filter.
lighthouse.
Yeah. Creating the filter, getting the costumes, like, yeah.
Defoe.
Payne Pattinson
Payne
and stuff.
Defoe and
Well, I'm
Pats.
sure, you know what, on a movie like that, though, they probably took a very
You're
Yes.
right. You're probably right.
They did it for the love. I know they did it for a couple $1 million, but
Right.
what I mean is that they did it because they love it. They could easily take a $10-11 million role
Exactly.
and be in some shit movie.
That's why both of them right
No, I'm
after.
Yeah.
kidding.
Whoa, that was a stray.
I must
Jesus.
say both of them like cashed out right after, right? You get Tenet, and then
And No Way Home.
Defoe goes and brings back Goblin.
They're like,
And-
no, the lighthouse doesn't pay the bills. It
Yeah.
fulfills me
Exactly.
spiritually.
I feel happy. Let me go do this trash.
that goes back to what you're talking about, them knowing, like, being almost fans of Robert Eggers. Like, yeah, let's do weird stuff. Like, I don't care if you're gonna underpay me. Like, it'll be worth it for me when I'm like to look back like I did this film.
Hey,
And I-
Robbie Patz is like, bro, they're selling Batman calzones. I could do this movie for $1 million.
Exactly. Like, I'm good. you
I'm
know?
getting calzone money.
And like you said, and like people see Willem Dafoe and he's the Green Goblin.
He's
you know?
scary as fuck. You know how they always say that he should play the Joker?
Yeah.
Have you seen the video of him
SNL?
acknowledging that?
Yeah.
Yeah, where I think it was SNL. He's like, it's nice to know that people think you'd play a perfect psychopath lunatic. Like, that's the vibe I'm giving off.
I'm just think of him in the Grand Budapest. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What the
exactly. That's one of my
Or
favorite
Steve
characters.
Zissou. Get him out to the fucking
Fucking
water.
fuck?
He's got crazy eyes.
Man.
Oh, man. I mean, I feel like we're kind of winding down here, but anything you really want to say that you feel like you haven't gotten out yet?
I don't think so. I mean, I honestly just think that my closing thoughts would be that I am so fucking excited for the Northman next week.
Hold on. I still haven't said my favorite scene, so can we
Okay.
run through it one more time? What was yours, Nate?
I really enjoyed my favorite shot was the lightning over the crashing waves during the storm. My favorite like scene and sequence was when they finally just get absolutely hammered and they're just dancing around the cabin and just being totally unhinged.
Bro.
I think my favorite shot is the one you have on your shirt, which
Okay,
is
the portrait of them staring.
Yeah. And my favorite scene is him finding the other, like the dead seagull, and then killing the seagull.
Okay.
Like turning on the faucet water and all that stuff.
Whew. I think I'm going to go. No, I don't want to do Hark. It is.
That's
Okay,
I mean that
yeah.
is
No,
number
it's
one.
like-
That
that's
is
the-
it.
that's the scene.
Yes,
That's
that's
the
the
scene.
obvious
Okay,
pick.
okay.
But
I'm glad we're all acknowledging
No, yeah.
that. So then I won't say that's my favorite. My favorite shot in the movie is them standing there in the rain.
The one when they don't come.
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
cool.
I love
Yeah,
that.
that's
I
really
want a
cool.
painting of that one
yeah,
day.
that's really cool.
And my favorite scene is the final showdown between the two of them. Like the when he's breaking him down, and he's like, "I'm no longer party under your designs."
Oh, yeah.
Straight losing his mind.
Yeah.
He breaks the mermaid in half.
Yeah,
right?
he's like Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, Tommy. And
That's so good.
it is a long sequence, but that
No,
final
that's a good
breakdown
one.
of like when he just tells him like, "Look at Yeed," he's like, "You're acting like a bitch who is complaining because of the silver spoon they were never born with," and he's like, "You're an open book. A picture says I."
Oh, God
That's my
damn.
favorite part. And then they fucking just fight. They fight each other and
Starts walking him like a
stab each
dog,
other.
dude. Oh my god.
Since we are in agreement, then that the speech is the scene. We had been saving it, so I think we should probably close out by talking about that scene and then just giving our closing thoughts, because we kind of just
Are we talking about the Hark scene?
saved it because we all knew that it was going to be really good. I just really, my favorite point from there, I know you had a lot to say about it, but my favorite point is just how he responds to after hearing the whole speech, you know?
Okay.
Have it your way.
So some notes from an acting perspective. You know, I told you guys Willem Dafoe was working with a dialect coach. He was, for this scene and the role in general, he wanted to have the coach not just to get the voice down, but that there's a rhythm and a cadence to how he talks, and it's kind of like poetic and it's a little like songy, you know. So for that scene, he just practiced it over and over and over, and like you said, he did it in the one take. And what I thought was interesting is that when he like summons the storm, because like that's what he
He
does.
does,
Right?
Yeah.
It's like ark, and then the storm starts going on in the background. His eyes are closed, and then it cuts to Robert Pattinson, and then his eyes are open, and he never shuts them. But it cuts to Robert Pattinson a couple times because you do have to see the reaction, because it's like, how would you react
Yeah,
to this? And he's
exactly.
just sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? But Willem Dafoe never blinks, and he holds that pose, and it's just some of the greatest, like, Shakespearean.
Yeah.
What do you even call it? He curses him, you know?
Yeah, he
Like,
does. He puts a curse on
It's
him.
a real curse.
He puts a C curse on him.
One of the scariest curses that I could get, because like, what did he just say?
Be like, wait, what? Like the blime or the brill. Like, oh my god.
Like that's like, you know, people are like, oh, no curse words. Be like, that's a curse. You put a curse on somebody. I've heard even very few witches' concoctions be scarier than that.
No,
speech.
for real. I don't have a whole lot more to say about that scene, but just the first time that I had seen it in the theater, my jaw hit the fucking floor.
Do you have like a? I know we're not going to be able to recite it, but do you have a favorite part of the speech?
I mean,
I
I-
do. I pulled it up. Right
What is yours?
So it's, let me see. Oh god, I'm gonna fuck this up probably. Can I even get it on my phone? It's like, he's like, black waves teeming with salt foam to smother this young mouth with pungent slime, to choke ye, engorging your organs till ye turn blue and bloated with bilge and brine.
That's
and
my
can
favorite.
Scream no more.
My favorite is just Village and Brine.
Yeah, right. I think my favorite part is, what does he say? He's like, crowned in cockle shells with his slithering tentacle and steaming beard, take up his fell befinned arm, his coral tine trident screeches, banshee like in the tempest.
Jesus Christ.
This is most likely going to be the opening sound for the episode.
I hope so.
You guys will hear it and probably.
I love how he tells him, he's like, he plunges it right in your gullet, bursting ye. I love that
It's
scene,
so
dude.
good.
It's so good. I love that it gave me the opportunity to put out my audition tape right here.
I can do it too.
So let's, okay, enough fun. Let's give our closing thoughts, and then I have a way I'm gonna end it. So let's do our
All right.
closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts probably would be that, obviously I say it with every movie. If you haven't seen this movie, go see this movie. But this is a movie that's in my top 10. I'm sure it's probably in your guys' maybe top 10,
Top 5.
15. There you
It's
go.
in my top 5,
Right?
and it ain't 5.
Exactly. Exactly. There you go. So this really just, like, once again, this movie is made possible by Robert Eggers' passion and his love and his overall view of everything, and is able to, like what I was talking about earlier, communicate that with his team and the actors, and take this fucking crazy idea and turn it into a movie that we all love. And I mean, I guess I just can't stop saying how much I love this movie, but I'm super hyped for The Northman next week. Like, I really am so
course.
excited. So
This is what this is all for in
Yes,
preparation.
it
for
is.
The Northman.
So shout out Robert Eggers. I love this movie.
I think The Lighthouse is a perfect culmination of Eggers taking it up to the next step after The Witch, and which it seems like he's doing with The Northman. Progression is how a director should be going up. It seemed that he had more control for this movie. He knew what he wanted. He got the right team, and he got it done perfectly, honestly. The casting is perfect. Everything about this movie, you guys said it's in our top 10. I just think it's so influential, and not just like not now, but I think in like 25 years, when, you know, those kids get some rebirth, this movie's going to be just the same way that I see Blade Runner. Like, people are going to be like, this is the best movie ever. The thing I like about this movie is that, just like The Witch, you could say the story is pretty straightforward. There's just so much going on that you start to get confused, and you're like, what does this all mean? But the story is straightforward, like you guys said. It's just about two guys on an island going crazy. Super excited for The Northman, and this movie basically, to me, set up the, like, I am a fan for life for Eggers. Like, to me, like, The Northman, kind of like how you said, there's a bias there. Like, it's already starting at 3 stars. We're just moving it up, you know, in terms of But this movie, to me, it's going to be really hard for a long time for him to top it off. But that's what I love about it, that his second film is that important to me.
Yeah, man. Going off of what you guys were saying, I think you guys covered it pretty well. I think this is a significant and important film in our history. And I love hyping up newer films because I was there when it happened, you know?
Exactly.
Like, so when I say like a newer movie is one of my favorites of all time, it's because I know that I'm witnessing something that is going to hold to the test of time. And I think because of the nature of this film and its look and its aesthetic, It's timeless. It's classic. It's a very special movie, and I think that Robert Eggers is the one. You know what I mean? I know I've talked about my Mount Rushmore a couple times, but if there was a face that's leading it, I think it's Robert Eggers. I think he's the most important filmmaker working right now who's young. I mean, obviously he's not the most established or anything, but he's the fucking man. Like,
not yet. Hopefully.
Not yet, but I hope in a couple of years when we're still doing this hopefully we're still doing this podcast, and hopefully he's still making interesting things, and he sticks to his singular, one of a kind vision.
Like you said, I hope the Northman is. I think you might have said this before. Is R300. I hope.
I could say that.
I hope the Northman gets him the attention he deserves. He has the A-list, all of his A-list cast here. They finally gave him a big budget. This is his first non-A24 movie. So, you know, A24 maybe was down. They're just like, we don't have the money, man.
Yeah, man.
And he is getting noticed by the big studios. And that's why I hope that the Northman really just gets everybody else's attention, because he already has mine.
Yeah,
it's like what I had said was that if you are like somewhere between like 12 and 14 and you go see the Northman, I hope this is your 300 that you want to fucking.
I want to see kids dress up as Vikings and, like, you know what I mean.
And I hope you want to fucking kill Flonir and avenge mother, and avenge father and save mother. You know, like, for real. I hope this does for the youth what 300 did for us in terms of like, this is fucking
just
rad.
gas me up.
Like,
exactly.
just, you know what I mean? Like, just total alpha energy. I don't care if it's male or female. Just like, let's ride through the gates of Valhalla.
Some savagery,
you know
like,
what
let's go,
Like,
yeah.
this
I can't wait.
Ass fucking shit, man. I'm so excited. So
I know that's how we're heading into that thing. I can't wait.
I'm gonna go
I
crazy.
that's
cannot
gonna
wait.
wrap it up for us. You know, like and subscribe. You know the deal. And I'm gonna end this with the poem from the dinner table. Should pale death. Fuck, I fucked it. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Should pale death with treble dread make the ocean caves our bed? God who hearsed the surges roll, deign to save our suppliant souls.
Yar.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Later, guys.